Hello, and welcome to the Deep Rest Science. Get comfortable, let your breathing slow. Breathe deeply now. Let your body settle into this moment. We are about to journey backward through time, not with urgency, but with the gentle pace of geological drift. Millions of years will pass like the slow blink of an eye, and in this deep history, we find the lion, not as we know it today, but in forms that have dissolved into memory, into bone, into the silent earth. Let us begin in the Pleistocene, in a world of ice and tundra. American lions once roamed North America. Their scientific name, Panthera leo atrox, whispers of something tremendous. These were the largest members of the Panthera family ever to walk the earth. A male American lion could weigh up to 470 kilograms. Imagine that weight, that presence, nearly half a ton of muscle and bone, and slow, deliberate breath. Their massive frames moved across icy tundras, landscapes we can barely picture now, white expanses broken only by scattered vegetation and the distant shapes of prey. And when these giants rested, which they did often, their bodies pressed into the frozen ground, conserving energy in a climate that demanded stillness as much as it demanded strength. Just as you rest now, they rested then, slumbering across those ancient frontiers. The lion lineage is far older and far more branched than we often realize. If we travel back further still, beyond the Pleistocene, we find a divergence point that occurred approximately 691,000 years ago. This is when cave lions separated from the lineage that would become modern lions. Think of that number, nearly 700,000 years. For context, our own species, Homo sapiens, is only about 300,000 years old. Cave lions existed for twice as long as we have walked this earth. And here is something remarkable. After that split, there was no gene flow between cave lions and modern lions. None. They were separate evolutions sheltered in their own territories, in their own ecological niches. Cave lions, as their name suggests, often took refuge in caves, deep stone chambers where darkness was eternal, where silence was absolute. These were sanctuaries of stillness, and in that eternal cave silence, a distinct species lived, hunted, raised young, and eventually vanished, leaving only bones for us to find millennia later. Let that thought settle over you like a blanket. An entire species, living separately for hundreds of thousands of years, breathing in and out day after day in quiet rhythms we will never witness. Now we step even deeper into time. Modern lions, the lions we know today, diverged from jaguars approximately 3.7 million years ago. Around the same period, roughly 3.5 million years ago, the tiger lineage also split away. These are deep feline forks in the tree of evolution. At some point in the late Pliocene epoch, a common ancestor gave rise to several distinct branches. One branch would lead to jaguars, powerful, solitary hunters of the Americas. Another would lead to tigers, striped phantoms moving through Asian forests in near total silence. And yet another would lead to lions, the only truly social big cat, living in prides, resting together in synchronized rhythms. Think about what this means. The solitary tiger, padding alone through bamboo and shadow, shares an ancient ancestor with the lion, who naps in a pile with a dozen pride members, their breath rising and falling in unconscious harmony. Evolution branched these temperaments into being, solitary silences versus collective harmonies. Both are strategies for survival. Both involve profound rest. Your own breath right now is its own strategy for survival. Notice it. There is no need to change it. Simply observe. Let us return to a more recent past, though still ancient by human measures. Between 470,000 and 155,000 years ago, lions crossed into the Americas. They did this via Beringia, the land bridge that once connected Siberia to Alaska. During ice ages, when sea levels dropped, this bridge emerged, a corridor of tundra and steppe, a highway for megafauna. Lions walked it. Step by step, generation by generation, they migrated eastward into a new world. Imagine that crossing, not a sudden journey, but a slow expansion over tens of thousands of years. lions following prey, following milder seasons, following the instinct to spread. And when they arrived in North America, they found vast spaces, new dens, new territories, slumbering frontiers where no lion had ever set paw. They settled, they adapted, they became the American lions we spoke of earlier, growing even larger than their Eurasian ancestors, perhaps in response to the megafauna they hunted. Giant bison, camels, horses, they became part of a landscape, and that landscape held them in its cycles of day and night, summer and winter, waking and sleeping. All of this movement, all of this evolution, traces back to a single origin. Modern lions, despite their migrations across continents and their divergence into different lineages, all trace their roots to sub-Saharan Africa. Genetic studies of mitochondrial DNA passed down through the maternal line, support this. The most ancient, the most basal lineages of lion mitochondrial DNA are found in Africa. This tells us that the lion as a distinct species arose there, in those vast savannas, in that cradle of so many life forms. Africa, with its golden grasses and flat horizons, its acacia trees casting small circles of shade in the relentless sun. This is where the lion became the lion, where its social structures formed, where its roar first echoed, where its need for long, deep rest, sometimes 20 hours a day, became encoded in its biology. The savanna is not a gentle place. It is hot. Prey is scattered, energy must be conserved, and so the lion learned to rest, not as a luxury, but as a necessity. In quiet harmony with the land, ancient lineages persisted. Prides formed, females stayed in the territories of their birth, males wandered and fought and eventually settled, and through it all they slept. In the shade, in the grass, bodies pressed together or sprawled apart depending on the heat. This is the pattern that has persisted for millions of years. Rest as survival, stillness as strength. As you lie here now, you are participating in something equally ancient. The need to rest is not unique to lions. It is written into the biology of nearly every creature that has ever lived. Your own ancestors, whether human or the small mammals that preceded us, rested in burrows, in trees, in caves. They synchronized their rest with the cycles of light and dark. They allowed their bodies to repair, their minds to process, their energy to restore. You are doing that now. Let the story of the lion remind you. Rest is not idleness. It is strategy. It is wisdom encoded over millions of years. The American lion on the tundra, the cave lion in its stony chamber, the modern lion in the shade of an acacia, all understood this. And now in your own way, so do you. Breathe in the stillness, exhale into the depths. Let the ancient echoes of the Pleistocene fade into the quiet of your own present moment. There is nowhere you need to be, nothing you need to do, only this, the gentle, eternal rhythm of breath and rest. And as we close this chapter of deep time, allow yourself to drift. The lions of the past have long since returned to the earth. Their stories are held in bone and June, and the faint traces of footprints preserved in stone. But their essence, the essence of rest, of conservation of life, lived in rhythm with the land, continues. You are still here, still breathing, still allowing the past to wash over you like gentle waves. We have traveled back millions of years, and now we return forward, though not quite to the present. We arrive at a moment approximately 70,000 years ago, when something changed in the lion lineage. A narrowing, a passage through difficulty, what scientists call a bottleneck. Breathe with this image, a bottleneck. All of the northern lion populations, those living across North Africa, the Middle East, and eventually into Asia, passed through a genetic choke point near the Arabian Peninsula. Their numbers dwindled, perhaps climate shifted, perhaps prey disappeared, perhaps disease swept through. We do not know the precise cause, only the genetic evidence of what occurred. Diversity shrank. Only a small number of lions survived to carry the lineage forward. And yet they did carry it forward. Life continued. This northern lineage, reduced but resilient, persisted for tens of thousands of years in relative isolation from southern populations. Then, approximately 21,000 years ago, Somewhere in Central Africa, these two great branches, northern and southern, met again. They interbred. Genes flowed between them once more after millennia of separation. This admixing created a third population, a central population, that carries genetic signatures from both north and south. Imagine that meeting. Not a single moment, but a slow convergence over generations. Lions moving across landscapes, following prey, following water, following the unconscious pull of life seeking life. Where territories overlapped, bonds formed. Cubs were born carrying the history of both lineages in their cells. Ancient choke points releasing into central convergence, separation dissolving into reunion. Just as your own breath separates into inhalation and exhalation, then reunites in the continuous cycle of breathing. One flow, one rhythm. Even when divided, there is always the potential for wholeness again. Today, lion populations across Africa and Asia can be understood as three broad geographic groups. These groups are shaped not by arbitrary human boundaries but by the landscape itself, by deserts that cannot be crossed, by valleys that form natural barriers, by history written into the land. The first group is the North African Asian population. These are the descendants of that northern lineage that passed through the bottleneck 70,000 years ago. Once these lions ranged from Morocco, across North Africa, through the Middle East, and all the way into India. Today, their range is a shadow of what it was. In North Africa, they are extinct in the wild. But in India, in a place called the Gir Forest, a small population remains. We will speak more of them soon. The second group is the Southern African population. These lions inhabit regions south of the Zambezi River, places like Botswana, Zimbabwe, South Africa. They descend from lineages that never passed through the northern bottleneck. Their genetic history is different, slightly more diverse in some ways, shaped by different pressures, different landscapes. The third group is the Middle African population. This is the admixed population, the meeting place of North and South. Lions here carry genetic echoes of both ancient branches. Central Africa, with its complex mosaic of habitats, its shifting climate zones during the Pleistocene, allowed this convergence. These three populations breathe in separated serenity. They are distinct, yet connected by common ancestry. Like siblings raised in different homes, they share a lineage but have been shaped by different experiences, different environments. The Sahara Desert serves as one great barrier. It is a sea of sand, largely impassable for lions, who need water and prey. South of the Sahara, life proliferates. North of it, the climate is harsher, drier. This desert has separated populations for millennia. The Great Rift Valley serves as another barrier. This massive geological feature, a tear in the Earth's crust running from the Middle East down through East Africa, creates variations in altitude, rainfall, and habitat. Lions on one side of the rift may never encounter lions on the other. And so, over time, their genes drift apart, shaped by local conditions. Barriers do not only divide, they also create uniqueness. They allow populations to adapt in specific ways, to develop characteristics suited to their particular environments. In this way, separation fosters diversity. And nowhere is this diversity more evident than in Central Africa. When scientists examine mitochondrial DNA, those genetic sequences passed from mother to daughter, unchanged except by rare mutations, they find that Central Africa holds the greatest variety of haplotypes. A haplotype is simply a unique genetic signature. Think of it as a dialect, a way that DNA speaks differently in different lineages. Central Africa has the most dialects, the most genetic variety. This is because during the Pleistocene epoch, when glaciers advanced and retreated in the north, when climate zones shifted across the continent, Central Africa remained relatively stable. It was a refuge. Different lineages persisted there, side by side without completely merging. Isolation in small pockets, then expansion, then isolation again, over and over. Each cycle added to the genetic mosaic, a mosaic unfolding like a gentle dreamscape where isolation fosters unique genetic rhythms. There is beauty in this complexity. It is not chaos, but rather a kind of natural order too intricate for simple description. Each population, each lineage, breathing in its own way, at its own pace, yet part of the greater whole. Your own body is a mosaic, cells with different functions, organs with different rhythms, all working together without your conscious effort. Your heart beats, your lungs expand, your intestines digest, your brain processes, all in synchronized complexity. You do not have to manage it. It simply happens. Just as the genetic rhythms of lion populations simply happen, shaped by time and geography and the patient unfolding of life. Now let us turn our attention to the Asiatic lion. These lions, living today only in the Gir forest of Gujarat, India, are the last remnant of that northern lineage we spoke of. They derive from the northern clade, and genetic evidence suggests they split from other northern populations approximately 100,000 years ago. That is when their ancestors became isolated on the Indian subcontinent, gradually separating from lions in the Middle East and North Africa. For 100,000 years, they have been their own distinct group. And for much of recent history, their numbers have been perilously small. By the early 20th century, fewer than 24 Asiatic lions remained. They were hunted nearly to extinction, but through protection efforts, their numbers have grown. Today there are several hundred in the Gir forest. However, this recovery from such a small population has left a genetic mark. The Gir lions are highly inbred. Approximately 3.8% of their genome is homozygous, meaning that both copies of certain genes are identical, inherited from a common ancestor on both the mother's and father's side. This happens when a population becomes very small and individuals have no choice but to mate with close relatives. The Gir forest has become an isolated grove, holding pure northern echoes. These lions carry genetic signatures found nowhere else. They are unique, precious, and also vulnerable. Inbreeding reduces genetic diversity, and genetic diversity is the raw material for adaptation. When a population has low diversity, it has fewer options if the environment changes, if a new disease emerges, if conditions shift. It is like having a narrow palette of colors to paint with. You can still create something beautiful, but your range is limited. And indeed, Gir lions have remarkably low genetic diversity. Scientists measure this using a statistic called pi, which represents the average number of genetic differences between individuals. For Gir lions, pi equals 0.00030, plus or minus 0.00011. That number means very little on its own, so let us compare it to something else. Cheetahs are famous for their low genetic diversity. They too passed through a severe population bottleneck thousands of years ago. Cheetahs are so genetically similar that skin grafts can be exchanged between unrelated individuals without rejection, something almost unheard of in other species. And yet Gir lions have even lower diversity than cheetahs. Sparse variants concentrating essence, purity and confined tranquility. There is something both fragile and resilient about this. Yes, low diversity brings risks, but these lions have survived. They have adapted to their specific environment, the scrubland and teak forests of Gir. They have learned to coexist, to some extent, with human communities on the edges of the forest. They have held on, and in holding on, they embody a kind of concentrated essence. Everything non-essential has been stripped away by generations of selection. What remains is what works, what functions, what survives. This is true of rest as well. When we allow ourselves to deeply relax, when we stop striving and simply be, we touch something essential. The noise falls away, the complexity simplifies. We are reduced to breath, to heartbeat, to the quiet hum of existence. The Gir lions in their isolated grove rest in the dappled shade of teak trees. The forest canopy filters the harsh Indian sun. The air is thick with humidity and the scent of earth and leaf. And there the lions sleep, conserving energy in the heat of the day, waiting for the cooler hours of dusk to begin their activities. They do not worry about their genetic diversity. They do not conceptualize their isolation. They simply live, moment by moment, breath by breath. And this is the invitation extended to you now, to live in this moment, to breathe in this breath, to rest in this rest. Populations separate, geography divides, genetics drift, But beneath all of that complexity is something simple: the continuous thread of life, adapting, persisting, resting and waking, and resting again. The fractured lineage is still a lineage. The separated populations are still connected by deep history, and you, lying here now, are connected to your own deep history, to ancestors who rested in caves and forests and savannas, to the evolutionary imperative that says rest is not optional, it is essential. Let the story of the Asiatic lion, isolated but enduring, remind you that even in limitation there is life, even in narrow circumstances there is breath, even in low diversity there is beauty. The northern and southern lineages met in Central Africa after tens of thousands of years apart, and in that meeting something new was created, not better or worse, simply different, a continuation. You too are a continuation of your parents, your grandparents, and beyond. Lineages stretching back through centuries and millennia. And in this moment, you carry all of that history in your cells, in your mitochondria, which trace maternal lines just as scientists trace lion lineages, in your DNA, which holds the instructions for building a body, for maintaining life, for orchestrating rest. Breathe into that. You are the inheritor of deep time, and right now in this present moment, you are doing what countless ancestors did before you. You are resting. The geography of separation need not be a story of loss. It can also be a story of adaptation, of resilience, of populations breathing in separated serenity, each finding its own rhythm, its own way of being in the world. And as this chapter closes, allow yourself to settle even deeper. The lions of North Africa, of Southern Africa, of Central Africa, of the Gir Forest, all are resting now, or will rest soon, in the rhythm of their own days and nights. Just as you rest now, just as you will wake in time when your body is ready. Until then, there is only this: the quiet, the stillness, the gentle eternal flow of life continuing, lineage unfolding into lineage, breath following breath. Let your breath deepen now. We have traveled through ancient time, through separation and adaptation. And now we turn to a different kind of story. Not one of beginnings, but of endings. Not one of divergence, but of disappearance. This is the story of vanished crowns, of lions that once were and now are not. But let us hold this story gently. Extinction is part of the natural rhythm of life on Earth. Species arise, flourish, and eventually fade. This has happened billions of times over the history of our planet. It is not aberrant. It is the way evolution works. Forms appear, are tested against the environment, and either continue or dissolve back into the fabric of time. The lions we speak of now have dissolved, but their echoes remain, in memory, in records, in the genetic threads still carried by their descendants in captivity. Let us begin with the Barbary lion. These lions once roamed the mountains and forests of North Africa. The Atlas Mountains, the coastal regions of Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Libya. They were adapted to a different world than the savanna lions we usually imagine. They lived in mountainous terrain, in cooler climates, among cedar forests and rocky outcrops, and they were magnificent. Reports from centuries past describe them as having particularly thick, dark manes that extended down their bellies. They were symbols of power, kept in royal menageries, featured in Roman arenas. But as human populations grew, as firearms spread, as land was converted for agriculture, the Barbary lion's range shrank. Year by year, decade by decade, they were hunted. Their prey was hunted. Their forests were cut. By 1942, the last known wild Barbary lion was gone. The mountains fell silent of their roars. 1942, not ancient history. Within the lifespan of people still living, a moment ago in geological time. And yet, the story does not end there entirely. Before they vanished from the wild, some Barbary lions had been taken into captivity, into zoos, into private collections, and these captive lions bred. Their descendants exist today in various zoos around the world, often labeled as Barbary-bred lions. Genetic testing has confirmed that some of these zoo lions do carry Barbary lineage. though often mixed with other subspecies. So the genome persists, though the wild population does not. Spectral lineages haunting captive bloodlines. There is something poignant about this. The essence of the Barbary lion continues in a kind of twilight existence, neither fully present nor fully absent. Alive, but not in the places they evolved to inhabit. Breathing, but behind barriers. Resting on concrete and manufactured shade rather than mountain stone and cedar shadow. This is the modern reality for many creatures, existence maintained, but context lost. Still, there is life, there is breath, and perhaps in some distant future, if wild spaces are restored, if human impact lessens, these genetic lines might find their way back to the Atlas Mountains. It is not impossible, only uncertain. For now, let us honor what was, the Barbary lion in its natural range, moving through mountain terrain, its thick mane rippling in cool North African breezes, its roar echoing off stone cliffs. That world existed, those lions lived, and in acknowledging them, we hold space for what has been lost. Breathe with that acknowledgement. Loss is part of existence. It does not diminish what was. It simply marks the passage of time. Now we turn to another vanished form, the Cape lion. These lions lived at the southern tip of Africa, in what is now South Africa, particularly in the Cape region. Historical accounts describe them as having distinctively dark manes, sometimes tawny black, giving them a dramatic appearance. Early European settlers in the region both feared and hunted them. As farms expanded, as livestock became targets, lions were systematically eliminated. By 1865, the Cape lion was extinct. 1865, even earlier than the Barbary lion. More than 160 years ago, before the invention of the automobile, before powered flight, before electric light became common. They vanished into a world still lit by candles and gas lamps. No Cape lions exist in captivity. There are no specimens in zoos claiming Cape lineage. They are simply gone. What remains are preserved skins in museums, skulls in research collections, written descriptions from hunters and naturalists of the 19th century. And from these fragments, we try to imagine what they were. Vanished capes shrouding prides of old, manes dissolving into legend's hush. There is a finality to this that the Barbary lion does not quite share. No possibility of reintroduction, no genetic rescue. The Cape lion has returned entirely to the earth, to memory, to the realm of things that once were. And yet, even in this finality, there is a kind of peace. They are no longer hunted, no longer pressured. They rest now in a way that requires no vigilance, no fear, no struggle. They have completed their journey. What they were fully, and that can never be taken away. In the Buddhist tradition, there is a concept called impermanence, anicca in Pali. All things arise and pass away. All forms are temporary. To understand this deeply is to find a kind of freedom, a release from the illusion that anything can be held on to forever. The Cape lion embodied its time, its place, and then released, as all things eventually do, as we all will. But this is not a cause for despair. It is simply the truth of existence, and in accepting it, we can be more present with what is here now, while it is here. So breathe. Be present with your own existence in this moment. You are here, alive, resting. This is not permanent either. But it is real now. And that is enough. The story continues beyond specific subspecies. It extends to entire regions. Lions have been extirpated, locally extinct from 12 African countries, completely gone from nations where they once roamed, and possibly from 4 more, where their presence is uncertain, where the last individuals may already be gone, or may be hanging on in such small numbers that they are functionally extinct. Think of the map of Africa. Now imagine it with 12 fewer countries colored in the range of the lion. Nations like Mauritania, where lions once lived in the western Sahel, like Gabon in Central Africa, like Lesotho in the south, empty now of lions. The landscapes remain, but the apex predator is absent. Vanished echoes lingering in empty ranges. This absence changes ecosystems. Without lions to regulate herbivore populations, vegetation patterns shift. Other predators may fill some of the niche, but not entirely. There is an imbalance, a hole in the web of relationships that once held the system in dynamic equilibrium. And yet, Nature adapts. It always has. Systems find new balances, even if different from before. Life continues, even in altered form. The story underscores cycles of absence and potential renewal, because some of these countries could, theoretically, support lions again if conditions changed, if habitat were protected, if prey populations recovered, if human-wildlife conflict could be managed. Reintroduction is possible. It has happened elsewhere. So the absence is not necessarily permanent. It is a pause, a silence waiting for the possibility of sound to return. And finally, we come to the West African lion. These lions still exist, but barely. They are classified as critically endangered. Their populations are fragmented, isolated in a few protected areas across the West African Sahel. Places like Pendjari National Park, on the border of Benin and Burkina Faso, Niokolo Kopa National Park in Senegal. Perhaps fewer than 500 individuals remain in total across all of West Africa. Critically endangered means one step away from extinct in the wild. It means that without active intervention, without protection, without careful management, they will likely disappear within our lifetimes. And yet they persist. In hushed landscapes, resilient spirits linger. These lions face immense pressures: habitat degradation, prey depletion, human-wildlife conflict, climate change making the Sahel even harsher, more unpredictable. And yet they continue, hunting in the night, raising cubs, resting in what shade they can find. There is something profoundly moving about this persistence, life's stubbornness, its refusal to yield easily, even when conditions are dire. The West African lions did not choose to be born into a critically endangered population. They simply live, as all creatures do, moment by moment, following the imperatives of survival and reproduction. And in their living, they invite us to reflect on fragile threads of existence, on how delicate the balance is, on how quickly a species that has existed for millions of years can be brought to the edge, but also on how much is possible when humans choose to protect rather than destroy. The West African lion still exists because people have designated protected areas, because rangers patrol against poachers, because researchers monitor populations, because local communities have agreed, however imperfectly, to coexist. The threat is fragile, but it has not yet broken. So what do we do with these stories of vanishing? We hold them gently. We acknowledge the loss without being consumed by it. We recognize that we are living through a time of unprecedented species decline, driven by human activity. This is true. It is important, but it need not rob us of peace in this moment. You cannot carry the weight of extinction as you fall asleep. That burden is too heavy for any individual. What you can do is breathe, rest, restore yourself, and from that restoration engage with the world more thoughtfully when you wake. The lions that have vanished, Barbary, Cape, and those extirpated from 12 countries, are part of the historical record now. Their absence teaches us about consequence, about value, about what happens when we are not careful stewards of the life around us. The lions that remain, like those in West Africa, teach us about resilience, about the possibility of renewal, about the fact that it is not yet too late. Both can be held without anxiety. Imagine the landscapes where lions no longer roar: the Atlas Mountains, the Cape region, the empty ranges across North and Central Africa. These places still have wind moving through them, still have sunrise and sunset, still have the slow, patient processes of geology and weather shaping the land. And perhaps in time, they will have lions again, or perhaps not. Either way, the earth continues. Life continues in some form. Your own life continues, breath by breath, moment by moment. The vanished crowns have fallen, but the sun still rises. Cubs are still born in the Gir forest, in the Serengeti, in Kruger, in Pendjari. The lineage, fractured though it may be, persists, and you persist. Here, now, resting. Let the weight of extinction settle gently, not as a crushing burden, but as a reminder of impermanence, of the preciousness of what is here now, of the invitation to witness, to honor, to care, but not to despair. The Barbary lion's mane will not ripple in North African wind again, at least not in the wild, not in our lifetimes. But the memory of that mane, the genetic information that coded for it, the historical accounts that described it, these remain. The lion is not entirely erased. It has simply changed form, from flesh to memory, from presence to echo. And echoes have their own kind of beauty, their own way of teaching us. So rest now in the knowledge that absence and presence are both part of the great cycle, that endings make space for beginnings, even if we do not live to see what those beginnings will be. That loss, when held with compassion rather than resistance, can deepen our appreciation for what remains. The West African lions are still breathing, still hunting, still resting in the shade of acacia trees in the heat of the Sahelian day. They do not know they are critically endangered. They only know the immediate reality of hunger, safety, the warmth of their pride members sleeping nearby. They live fully, even at the edge of extinction, and in that, they are teachers. Live fully, in this moment of rest. Do not hold back your relaxation because of what has been lost or what might be lost. Give yourself completely to this moment, to this breath, to this quiet. The vanished crowns rest in a different way now, in the eternal rest of extinction, but you are still here, still capable of waking, of engaging, of caring. For now, though, rest, deep and true. As this chapter closes, let the ghosts of Barbary and Cape lions drift past like gentle dreams, not frightening, not demanding, simply present in memory, then fading, making space for the next breath, the next moment. Breathe in, breathe out. We have walked through loss, through absence, through the quiet territories where lions no longer roam. And now we turn toward presence, toward the places where lions still live, still hunt, still rest, still dream their lion dreams under vast skies. This is a geography of the living, a map not of what was, but of what is. Let us begin with the broad strokes, the continental view. African lions today inhabit the sub-Saharan regions of the continent. Picture Africa in your mind, that great landmass, the second largest on Earth. Now imagine a horizontal line across it, just below the Sahara Desert. South of that line, in the vast stretches of savanna and grassland, lions persist, but not everywhere. They avoid the densest rainforests, where the canopy is thick and continuous, where prey animals are scarce and the terrain makes hunting difficult. The Congo Basin, with its towering trees and year-round humidity, holds leopards and forest elephants, but not lions. Lions need open spaces, visibility, room to coordinate group hunts. They also avoid true deserts, though we will speak soon of lions that have adapted to desert margins. The heart of the Namib Desert, the driest regions of the Kalahari, these are too harsh, too empty of prey and water to support resident lion populations. So the African lion lives in the savannas, the grasslands, the woodlands, the great parks and reserves that stretch across East and Southern Africa, the Serengeti, the Masai Mara, Kruger, Okavango, Hwange, Selous, names that evoke wildness, vastness, the sense of land that still belongs primarily to the animals who inhabit it. These are expansive ranges, cradling prides and shaded savanna naps. In these territories, life follows ancient patterns, the dry season and the wet season, the migration of wildebeest and zebra, the flowering of grasses, the drying of water holes, and through it all, the lions remain or move in response, tracking prey, defending territories, resting in whatever shade they can find. And in Asia, far from the African savannas, one population remains. The Asiatic lion persists solely in India's Gir forest. This is their last refuge on the entire Asian continent. Once lions ranged from Greece through the Middle East, across Persia, into India. Cave paintings and historical texts confirm their presence. But over millennia, those populations vanished, hunted, displaced, lost to the expansion of human civilization. Only in Gir did they survive. Only there, in the scrubland and teak forests of Gujarat, did a small population endure through the 20th century and begin slowly to recover. Today, approximately 600 Asiatic lions live in and around the Gir forest. It is both a success story, a species brought back from the very edge, and a precarious situation. All of their genetic diversity, all of their future, concentrated in one small region of one country. But for now, they persist, and that persistence is worth honoring. Lions are more adaptable than we sometimes imagine. We picture them on flat, golden savannas, the iconic image from documentaries and nature photography. And yes, that is their primary habitat, but they also occupy a remarkable diversity of environments. Lions live in forested areas where trees are scattered enough to allow hunting, but dense enough to provide shelter. They live in shrubby landscapes where acacia and thornbush create a patchwork of cover and open ground. They live in mountainous zones, navigating rocky terrain and steep slopes. They even live in semi-desert areas where water is scarce and temperatures are extreme. The highest altitude at which lions are known to thrive is 4,240 meters above sea level. This is in Ethiopia's Bale Mountains, a highland region where the air is thin and temperatures can drop below freezing at night. At such altitudes, the landscape is dramatically different from the lowland savanna. Alpine meadows, moorland, mist that rolls in thick and cold, and yet lions live there. High-altitude dens inviting crisp, restorative breaths amid misty peaks. Imagine a lion pride at that elevation. Their thick fur, which in the heat of the lowlands can be a burden, becomes an asset. The cold night air makes their warm breath visible. They huddle closer together for warmth. Their metabolic rate adjusts. Their routines shift to accommodate the different rhythm of highland life. Adaptation is the signature of successful species. And lions, despite their declining numbers, despite the pressures they face, remain remarkably adaptable within the range of environments they can access. In India, the Asiatic lions dwell in scrubland and teak forests within the confined preserve of deer. Teak is a hardwood tree with large leaves that create dappled, shifting patterns of light and shadow on the forest floor. The scent of teak forests is distinctive, earthy, slightly sweet, the smell of dry leaves and sun-warmed wood. The lions rest in these groves, enveloped in aromatic hush. The forest breathes around them. The wind moves through the canopy with a sound like distant water, and the lions, bellies full or empty, settle into whatever posture conserves energy best. Sprawled on their sides, curled loosely, one eye half open, monitoring for disturbance while the body rests. The teak groves envelop them. The forest exhalations, the slow release of oxygen from billions of leaves sync with their own breathing. In, out, the lion and the forest, exchanging breath, existing in the same moment of time. You too are exchanging breath with the world around you. The oxygen you inhale was produced by plants. The carbon dioxide you exhale will be used by plants. You are part of a cycle much larger than yourself. Not separate, not isolated, woven into the fabric of life on this planet, just as the lions in the teak forest are woven in. Now let us travel to a harsher landscape, the Kalahari Desert. The Kalahari is not a true desert in the way the Sahara is. It receives more rainfall, supports more vegetation, but it is still an arid, challenging environment. The sand is deep and soft in places, making movement exhausting. Water is scarce and seasonal. Temperatures swing wildly between day and night. Lions here have adapted in visible ways. Kalahari desert lions have longer legs than their savanna counterparts. This gives them a greater stride, more efficiency when walking long distances across sandy expanses. They also have larger paws, which spread their weight over a greater surface area, preventing them from sinking too deeply into the sand. These are desert lions, forming smaller prides to minimize food competition in a landscape of scarcity. Where a Serengeti pride might number 15 or 20 individuals, a Kalahari pride might be 5 or 6. Smaller groups mean less prey needed, less competition at kills, greater flexibility in movement, and they trek, sometimes for days, following the sparse herds of gemsbok and springbok, conserving water by getting moisture from the blood and fluids of their prey, resting during the heat of the day in whatever small shadow is available, beneath a camel thorn tree, in the lee of a dune, under an overhang of rock. These lions have mastered the art of efficiency. Every action is calculated against energy expenditure. Hunt only when success seems likely. Travel only when necessary. Rest as much as possible. Store energy for when it is needed. This is wisdom encoded in their bodies over generations. And it is wisdom available to you as well. Rest is not laziness. It is strategic, it is intelligent, it is the way energy is conserved for when it matters most. The Asiatic lions of India, living along the coast near the Gir forest, have their own spatial patterns. Research has shown that their core ranges, the areas they use most intensively, average around 8.7 square kilometers. But their overall ranges, the full territory they move through over time, average 171.8 square kilometers. These coastal prowls dissolve into saline breezes. The smell of the sea, the cry of seabirds, a landscape very different from the African interior. And yet, lions live there. Rest there, dream there. The expansive ranges cradle stillness. There is room to roam, but also familiar places to return to. Dense sites used year after year, particular groves or thickets where cubs are born, water sources visited in predictable patterns. Home ranges for lions vary widely depending on one factor above all others: prey density. Where prey is abundant, ranges are small. In the Serengeti during the wildebeest migration, a lion pride might only need 20 square kilometers to find everything they require. Food is everywhere, water is accessible, they barely need to move. But in arid regions like the Kalahari or in areas where prey has been depleted, home ranges expand. 300 square kilometers, 400, even more in some cases. The lions must travel farther to find food, must cover more ground to locate scattered water sources, must expand their territory to encompass enough resources for survival. These adaptive territories embrace flexible dens, mirroring breath's varying depths. Just as your breath naturally varies, shallow when you are calm, deeper when you exert yourself, then returning to shallow again, so too do lion ranges expand and contract based on need. There is no fixed, rigid structure, only responsiveness to conditions. This is the essence of adaptation, not resisting reality, but flowing with it, finding what works in the circumstances you are given. The lions of the High Bale Mountains have different challenges and resources than the lions of the coastal Gir forest. The Kalahari lions face different pressures than the Serengeti prides, and yet all are lions. All carry the same basic blueprint in their DNA, the same need for food, water, safety, rest. They have all found their way to survive in the specific geography they inhabit. You too inhabit a specific geography, a particular body with particular needs. And you too are finding your way. Perhaps not perfectly, perhaps with struggle. But you are here. You are breathing. You are resting. That is enough. The lions dream in the places where they live, not in some idealized, pristine wilderness that no longer exists, but in the actual present landscapes available to them. Some of those landscapes are protected parks. Some are buffer zones near human settlements. Some are remote and wild. Some are fragmented and compromised. But they are real. And the lions in them are real, living real lives, moment by moment. This is where lions dream. In the Serengeti's endless grass, in the mountain heights of Ethiopia, in the teak forests of deer, in the sandy expanses of the Kalahari, in coastal scrublands, in thornbush woodlands, in 100 different variations of habitat, each with its own character, its own rhythm, its own particular quality of light and shadow. And in all of these places, there are moments, many moments each day, when the lions stop moving, stop hunting, stop patrolling, and they rest. They find a patch of shade. They settle their great bodies onto the earth. They close their eyes or leave them half-lidded, gazing at nothing in particular. And they breathe, slowly, deeply, without urgency. Their flanks rise and fall. Their paws twitch occasionally as muscles relax. Their tails drape limp. The tension drains from their shoulders, their hips, their massive jaws. They are not thinking about territory, not planning hunts, not worrying about rival prides. In that moment, they are simply being, simply breathing, simply resting, as you are now. The geography of the living is ultimately the geography of the present moment, of this place, this body, this breath, not some other time or place, not the past with its losses or the future with its uncertainties, just this. The lions know this instinctively. They do not carry yesterday's hunger into today's rest. They do not anticipate tomorrow's hunt while sleeping. They are present, fully, completely, and in their presence, they teach us. Adaptation is not about controlling circumstances, but about responding to them skillfully. Rest is not about perfect conditions, but about taking restoration wherever and whenever it is available. Life is not about the ideal, but about the actual. So let your breath sync with the breath of lions across the globe, in Ethiopia's mountains, in India's forests, in Africa's savannas, all breathing together, all resting, all part of the same living planet, the same moment of time. Where do lions dream? Wherever they are. And that is exactly where you are invited to dream as well, not in some other circumstance, but in this one, here, now. The expansive ranges cradle stillness, the adaptive territories embrace flexible rest, and you, in your own geography of living, can rest deeply and fully and completely, knowing you are exactly where you need to be. Breathe in the crisp mountain air, breathe in the aromatic teak, breathe in the salt of coastal breezes, breathe in the dry heat of the Kalahari. All of it, all of existence, gathered into this single breath, this single moment of rest. And let go, let the geography of the living simply be what it is. The lions are dreaming, and so can you. Settle deeper now. We have traveled through landscapes, through the places where lions live and rest, and now we turn our attention to the lion itself, to the body, to the magnificent physical form that has been shaped by millions of years of evolution, to flesh and fur and bone, to breath condensing in dawn air, to the intimate details of what it means to inhabit the body of an apex predator. This is the body electric, the living architecture of muscle and sinew, heartbeat and pulse. Let us begin with weight, with mass, with the sheer physical presence of a lion. An adult male lion averages 189 kilograms. Picture that weight, nearly 200 kilograms of bone and muscle, organs and blood, contained in a single living form. Some males are lighter, some significantly heavier. The record weight for a wild male lion is 272 kilograms, well over half the weight of a grand piano, carried on 4 paws, moved with fluid grace across the savanna. Females are smaller, averaging 126 kilograms, still formidable, still powerful, but built for different work. Endurance hunting rather than territorial combat, agility rather than intimidation. At the shoulder, males stand approximately 1.2 meters high, females 1.1 meters. Imagine standing beside a lion. Its shoulder would reach somewhere near your chest or waist, depending on your own height. And yet, despite being shorter than a human, the lion carries far greater mass, distributed in a body designed for explosive power. These are majestic frames coiling in shaded slumber, mass as a testament to energy's conserved depth. Because all of that weight, all of that muscle, requires fuel, requires calories. And in the savannah, calories are not guaranteed. Prey must be hunted, often unsuccessfully. Days may pass between substantial meals. And so the lion's body has learned to conserve, to rest, to coil up in whatever shade is available and simply be still, minimizing energy expenditure, allowing the metabolic fires to bank down to coals rather than flame. The weight of the lion is both its power and its burden. It can bring down prey much larger than itself, a zebra, a buffalo, but it must also carry that weight across kilometers of hot terrain, must drag heavy bodies to sheltered feeding sites, must defend its mass against rival males who are equally massive. And so, rest becomes essential. The body cannot sustain constant activity. It must cycle between exertion and recovery, between the hunt and the long stillness that follows. Your own body, though different in specifics, follows the same principle. You cannot be active continuously. You require rest. Your muscles need time to repair. Your nervous system needs time to reset. Your cells need time to perform the housekeeping functions that only happen when you are still. So, let your body rest now. Let its weight sink fully into whatever surface supports you. No effort, no holding, just release. Just the pure, simple fact of mass at rest. Now let us look at variation, at the ways the lion's body adapts to different environments. Asiatic lions, those living in the Gir forest of India, have certain distinctive features that set them apart from their African cousins. Their manes are shorter, not as full, not as dramatically impressive as the long flowing manes of some African males, but they have thicker tufts at the elbows and at the tips of their tails, and they have a characteristic fold of skin along their bellies, a longitudinal fold that is much more pronounced than in African lions. These folded hides relax in coastal serenity, adaptations whispering of enduring calm. Why these differences? Genetics, certainly. The Asiatic lions have been isolated from African populations for 100,000 years, long enough for distinctive traits to emerge. But also perhaps, adaptation to their specific environment. The scrubland and forest of Gir is different from open savanna. Different hunting strategies, different temperatures, different pressures. The belly fold may help with thermoregulation, allowing more surface area for heat dissipation. Or it may simply be a neutral genetic drift, a feature that persisted because it caused no harm. Not every difference has a clear adaptive purpose. Some are simply the result of small populations and chance, but the overall effect is a slightly different aesthetic, a recognizably distinct form, the same species, but with its own character, its own particular expression of lionness. In the deserts, the Kalahari, the fringes of the Namib, lions have adapted in yet another way. Desert-adapted males sport lighter, sparser manes, less fur around the neck and shoulders, less insulation. This makes perfect sense in extreme heat. A thick, dark mane absorbs and traps heat. In the coolness of dawn and dusk, this might be acceptable, but in the middle of the day, in desert environments where temperatures can exceed 40 degrees Celsius, a heavy mane becomes a liability. Overheating is a real danger, so natural selection has favored males with lighter manes in these regions. Cooling and arid heat, streamlined for unburdened rest. Less is more. Less fur means better heat dissipation, means the ability to move during warmer parts of the day if necessary, means more comfortable rest in the limited shade available. Again, adaptation, the body electric responding to the environment in which it finds itself, not resisting the heat, but accommodating it, changing form to fit function. There is a famous example of this principle taken to an extreme, the Tsavo lions of Kenya. In Tsavo, a hot, semi-arid region of thornbush and sparse vegetation. Many of the male lions are nearly or completely maneless. For a long time, this puzzled researchers. The mane is such an iconic feature of male lions, so important in mate selection and in intimidating rivals. Why would Tsavo males lack it? Recent research suggests elevated testosterone may play a role. High testosterone levels, possibly linked to the stress of living in a harsh environment, can inhibit mane growth. Additionally, the thornbush terrain of Tsavo would snag and pull a long mane, making movement difficult and painful. So the Tsavo males are maneless, heads cooling, streamlined for unburdened rest, moving through thorns without hindrance. And they are no less lions for lacking manes. They hunt, they mate, they defend territories, they rest in the heat of the day just as maned lions do. The absence of a mane does not diminish them. It simply reveals a different way of being a male lion. This is an invitation to you as well. Whatever features you may think you lack, whatever ways you may be different from some imagined ideal, you are not diminished. You are simply your own expression, your own adaptation, streamlined in your own way for your own life. Now let us consider color. The golden tawny coat that blends so perfectly with dry grass and sandy soil. This is the standard, the common form, but there are exceptions. White lions exist naturally in South Africa. They are not albinos. True albinism results from the complete absence of melanin and is accompanied by pink eyes and skin. White lions have normal eye color, blue or gold, and their skin, though lighter, is not pink. They are white because of a recessive gene that affects pigmentation, called leucism. For a white lion to be born, both parents must carry the recessive gene, and the cub must inherit one copy from each parent. This is rare in wild populations because the gene is not common, but in certain regions of South Africa, particularly the Timbavati area, the gene frequency is higher. and white lines occasionally appear, pale variants gleaming softly in dreams, untouched by night's deeper shades. There is something almost mythical about white lines. They appear in folklore and legend. Some cultures regard them as sacred, and visually they are striking. A white lion moving through golden grass, visible from great distances, seeming to glow in certain light. But whiteness is actually a disadvantage for hunting. Camouflage is important for stalking prey, and a white lion is much more visible than a tawny one. This is likely why the gene remains rare. White cubs are less successful hunters, less likely to survive to reproduce. And yet they do sometimes survive, particularly if born into a pride where other members do most of the hunting. The white cub can benefit from group kills without needing to be a primary hunter. It can rest alongside its tawny siblings, eat from their kills, and eventually, if lucky, reproduce and pass on the recessive gene. Nature contains this variation, this rare expression, these pale forms that seem almost like dreams made manifest. Finally, let us descend to the most fundamental level, the chromosome. Lions possess 23 pairs of chromosomes, 46 total chromosomes in each cell nucleus, carrying all of the genetic information needed to build and maintain a lion. Interestingly, humans also have 23 pairs of chromosomes, though the information encoded is vastly different. This similarity is coincidental, but it reminds us of kinship, of shared ancestry deep in evolutionary time, mammals all branching from common ancestors, carrying forward certain fundamental structures. The chromosomes contain genes, and genes produce proteins, and proteins build bodies. Every feature we have discussed, the weight, the main variation, the white coloration, the adaptations to heat, all of these are ultimately expressions of genetic information carried on chromosomes. And those chromosomes aid rapid evolution. When environmental pressures change, genetic variation allows populations to respond. Individuals with advantageous traits survive and reproduce more successfully. Over generations, the population shifts, adapts, changes. This is happening in lion populations right now. Desert lions with lighter manes are being selected for in arid environments. Asiatic lions with their unique traits persist in the deer forest. Variation exists, is tested against reality, and either continues or fades. But in this moment, in your own body, your chromosomes are simply maintaining you, directing cellular processes, keeping your heart beating, your lungs breathing, your neurons firing, all without your conscious input. The body electric, running its ancient programs, keeping you alive while you rest. So trust it. Trust the body's intelligence. You do not need to manage your heartbeat, your digestion, your cellular repair. It is happening automatically, perfectly the way it has happened for billions of years of evolutionary time. The lion does not think about its chromosomes, its genetic code, its adaptations. It simply lives, simply is. The body electric expresses itself without self-consciousness, without doubt, and you can rest in that same unself-consciousness. You are a body, a living system, a collection of cells organized into organs and tissues, all working together, all synchronized in the task of keeping you alive. Your mass, like the lion's mass, is testimony to energy conserved. Your particular features, like the lion's mane or coloration, are expressions of genetics and environment interacting. You are exactly what you are, and that is enough. So breathe into the body electric. Feel the hum of life within you, the pulse in your wrists, your neck, the rise and fall of your chest, the warmth of your skin, the weight of your bones sinking into rest. All of this physical marvel, is simply doing what it does, without effort, without thought. The body knows how to be a body, just as the lion's body knows how to be a lion. And in this knowing, in this instinctive competence, there is peace. You do not have to figure it out. You do not have to manage it. You simply have to allow it, to rest, to let the body electric do its work while you drift into deeper and deeper stillness. The majestic frames coiling in shaded slumber. Your own frame coiling now, releasing, settling, the mass conserving energy, the adaptations functioning without supervision, the chromosomes directing repair and maintenance. The whole magnificent system humming along, powered by the simple act of breath. In, out, the body breathing itself, the heart beating itself, the cells regenerating themselves, and you, released from the need to control or understand it all, simply resting in the miracle of your own physical existence. Like the lion in the teak forest, in the desert shade, on the mountain peak, breathing, resting, being, the body electric, alive and present, in this moment and no other. Bring your awareness now to your own heartbeat. You may be able to feel it without searching, a subtle pulse in your chest, your wrists, your throat, or perhaps it is so quiet, so steady, that it fades into the background of your awareness. Either way, it is there, beating, pumping, moving blood through the vast network of vessels that reaches every cell in your body. Your heart has been beating since before you were born. It will continue beating until the moment your life ends. It is the most faithful companion you will ever have, never resting, never stopping, always present. The lion's heart is beating too, right now in savannas and forests across Africa and India. Hundreds of lion hearts are pulsing in their chests, slow and powerful, rhythmic and sure. This is the hydraulic heart, the pump that drives life, the organ that delivers oxygen and nutrients to every muscle, every organ, every inch of tissue that makes up the body of a lion. Let us explore this circulatory wonder. Let us listen to the amplified heartbeat, slow and powerful, that sustains the king of beasts. The lion's heart is specialized in ways that reflect its lifestyle, and one of the most remarkable features is found in its electrical activity, in the signals that coordinate each heartbeat. When a heart beats, it does so because of electrical impulses traveling through cardiac muscle. These impulses can be measured using an electrocardiogram, an ECG, and one of the measurements taken from an ECG is called the QT interval, the time it takes for the heart's ventricles to contract and then recover before the next beat. In African lions, the QT interval is remarkably short. In zoo lions, it measures approximately 297 milliseconds, give or take 9 milliseconds. This is brief, compact, efficient. What this reflects is specialized cardiac electrophysiology. The lion's heart has evolved to cycle quickly through each beat, to reset rapidly, to be ready for the next contraction without delay. This is especially important during moments of exertion, during a chase, during a fight, when the heart must beat faster and deliver more oxygen-rich blood to working muscles. But here is the beautiful paradox. This specialized high-performance heart spends most of its time beating slowly, beating at rest, pulsing in rhythmic serenity during extended repose. The compact heartbeats that can accelerate to support explosive activity are, most of the time, simply maintaining a calm, steady rhythm. The heart that can race is, far more often, at peace. This is the wisdom of the lion's circulatory system. Capacity without constant use, power held in reserve, readiness without tension. When a conscious resting lion is monitored, its heart rate averages 70 beats per minute, plus or minus 4. 70 beats per minute. This is close to the average resting heart rate of a healthy adult human, somewhere between 60 and 100 beats per minute for most people. Think about that. A lion weighing 200 kilograms with a heart far larger than yours, nevertheless beats at approximately the same rate when at rest. This is not coincidence. This is the optimization of mammalian circulatory systems, a rhythm that balances efficiency with the needs of the body. Not too fast, burning energy wastefully, not too slow, failing to deliver adequate oxygen. Just right, just enough. 70 beats per minute. You can count them if you wish. 1 beat per second roughly. A slow, steady pulse, the rhythm of rest. But the lion's heart rate is not constant. It varies with activity as yours does. And interestingly, it accelerates at night. Lions are primarily nocturnal hunters. As evening falls and temperatures cool, as darkness settles over the savanna, lions become more active. They rise from their daytime resting spots. They begin to move, to patrol, to hunt, and their heart rates increase in response. Nocturnal rhythms syncing with the savanna's hush, slower pulses during the day inviting profound neural recovery, slightly faster pulses at night supporting activity, but still measured, still controlled. This is circadian adaptation, the heart responding to the rhythm of day and night, of rest and activity that has structured lion life for millions of years. When the sun is high and hot, The heart beats slowly. The lion rests. Energy is conserved. When darkness comes and the air cools, the heart beats a bit faster. The lion moves, engages with the world, hunts, and then after the hunt, successful or not, the heart rate drops again. The lion returns to rest, and the slow, steady pulse resumes, allowing profound neural recovery, allowing the brain to clear metabolic waste, to consolidate memories, to restore itself for the next cycle of activity. Your own heart follows a similar pattern. During deep sleep, your heart rate drops. During dreams, it may increase slightly. During the day, it rises and falls with your activities. And ideally, during periods of rest like now, it settles into a calm, steady rhythm. Listen to it, feel it, your faithful companion beating on, asking nothing from you, simply doing its work. Now let us consider the size and strength of the lion's heart. A lion's heart can weigh up to 2% of its total body weight. For a 200-kilogram male, that means a heart weighing up to 4 kilograms, nearly 9 pounds. Think of that. A 4-kilogram muscle, roughly the size of a large grapefruit or small melon, sitting in the chest cavity, contracting and relaxing, tens of thousands of times per day. 2% of body weight is approximately twice the proportion found in most mammals. Most mammalian hearts weigh about 1% of body weight. But the lion's heart is proportionally larger, stronger, more muscular. Why? Because of the demands placed on it. Lions are ambush predators, but their hunts often involve short, intense chases. A lion may go from complete rest, lying in the grass nearly motionless, to sprinting at 50 kilometers per hour in a matter of seconds. This requires a massive sudden increase in oxygen delivery to the muscles. The heart must respond instantly, dramatically, pumping far more blood per minute than it was just moments before. And after the chase, after the explosive exertion, whether successful or not, the lion must recover. The heart rate gradually drops, the breathing slows, the muscles flush out lactic acid, and the lion rests, sometimes for many hours, allowing full recovery. This cycle, explosive effort followed by extended rest, is enabled by the proportionally large, powerful heart, a heart that can sustain endurance during chases, but only because it is sustained by the depth of savanna slumbers. Rest is not separate from performance. Rest is the foundation of performance. The lion can sprint because it has rested. It can fight because it has slept. The powerful heart can deliver explosive effort because it spends most of its time beating slowly, conserving energy, maintaining rather than straining. Your own heart, though proportionally smaller, follows the same principle. It can accelerate when you need it to, when you exercise, when you face a challenge, when adrenaline surges. But it can only do this reliably, sustainably, if you also give it time to rest, to beat slowly, to recover. Right now you are giving your heart that gift, the gift of rest, the gift of a slow, steady rhythm with no demands placed upon it, just beating, just being, just doing its essential work without strain. And there is one more circulatory marvel to explore. Lion blood is different from human blood in a significant way. It contains approximately 30% more red blood cells than human blood. 30% more of the cells that carry oxygen from the lungs to the tissues. This means that with each beat, the lion's heart is pumping blood that is richer in oxygen-carrying capacity. Each liter of blood delivers more oxygen to working muscles. This is crucial during fights or pursuits, during any moment of intense physical demand. More red blood cells mean more hemoglobin, the protein that binds oxygen in the lungs and releases it in the tissues. More hemoglobin means more oxygen available. More oxygen means muscles can work harder, longer, before fatigue sets in. This enriched blood is another adaptation to the lion's lifestyle. Brief, intense exertion requires maximum oxygen delivery. And so, over evolutionary time, lions with higher red blood cell counts were more successful hunters, more successful fighters, and passed on their genes more effectively. But again, this enriched blood, this enhanced oxygen-carrying capacity, sustains vigilant rests as well as active pursuits. Because oxygen is not only needed for muscle contraction, it is needed for every cellular process in the body, for digestion, for immune function, for brain activity, for cellular repair. During rest, when oxygen demands are lower, The excess capacity means that oxygen is abundant, easily available, never limiting. Cells can perform their housekeeping functions without competition for resources. The brain, which consumes a disproportionate amount of oxygen, despite its relatively small size, is well supplied. Enriched flows sustaining vigilant rests. Blood that can support a sprint also supports a deep restorative sleep. The same resource serving different needs at different times. Your own blood, though less concentrated in red cells than a lion's, is flowing through you right now, carrying oxygen to your brain, your muscles, your organs. Every cell in your body is being nourished continuously by the circulation of blood. You do not have to think about this. You do not have to direct it. The heart pumps, the vessels carry, the cells receive, all automatically, all without conscious effort. This is the hydraulic system, the fluid mechanics of life. Blood is the transport medium, carrying not only oxygen, but nutrients, hormones, immune cells, waste products to be filtered and eliminated, all flowing in loops and branches, reaching every part of the body, then returning to the heart to be pumped out again. The lion lying in the shade of an acacia tree, breathing slowly, its heart beating 70 times per minute. Its blood is circulating through over 170 kilometers of blood vessels. Capillaries so small that red blood cells must pass through single file. Arteries strong enough to withstand the pressure of each heartbeat. Veins carrying deoxygenated blood back to the heart and lungs to be refreshed. And all of it happening in silence, in stillness. The lion is not aware of its circulatory system. It simply rests, and the hydraulic heart does its work, faithfully, ceaselessly. Your own circulatory system is working just as faithfully right now. You have nearly 100,000 kilometers of blood vessels in your body, more distance than twice around the earth. And blood is moving through all of them continuously, keeping you alive. Bring your awareness to this for a moment, not to analyze it or understand it completely, but simply to acknowledge it, to honor it, this hydraulic heart, this pumping, flowing, circulating system that has sustained you since before your first breath. The lion's heart beats in the savannah, your heart beats here. Different locations, different species, but the same fundamental process, the same miracle of circulation, the same faithful companion maintaining life, beat by beat. And just as the lion's heart can rest at 70 beats per minute for hours, simply maintaining, simply being, so too can your heart rest now. No urgency, no demand, just the slow, powerful rhythm of a heart at peace. Compact heartbeats pulsing in rhythmic serenity. This is available to you. This is what you are experiencing right now. The body at rest, the heart at ease, the blood flowing without impediment, the oxygen being delivered, the cells being nourished. Nothing needs to be different. Nothing needs to change. This moment, with its slow heartbeat and gentle breath, is complete in itself. The lion does not question whether it is resting correctly. It does not worry about its heart rate or its blood oxygen levels. It simply lies down, closes its eyes, and allows the body to do what the body knows how to do. Rest, recover, restore, and you can do the same. Release any remaining effort, any sense that you need to manage or control your rest. The hydraulic heart is working, the circulatory system is functioning, the body knows what to do. All you need to do is be still, be present, allow the slow, powerful rhythm to carry you deeper into rest, into the space where the heart beats and the blood flows, and life continues without your conscious participation. The lion rests, you rest, and the hydraulic heart in both lion and human beats on, faithful, steady, sustaining life with each quiet pulse, each rhythmic contraction, each circulation of enriched blood through the vast network of vessels that makes complex life possible. Listen to that heartbeat, feel it, not with your ears but with your awareness, the slow, powerful pulse, the rhythm of life itself, and let it lull you deeper. Let it remind you that you are alive, you are here, you are held by the body's own intelligence. Beating in serenity, sustaining vigilant rest, carrying you through this night, this sleep, this deep restoration that your body so richly deserves. Soften your eyes now. Let them rest behind closed lids. You do not need to see in this moment. You do not need to gather information from the world around you. Your senses can rest, can soften, can release their vigilance. But imagine for a moment, what it would be like to possess senses far sharper than your own, to see in near darkness, to hear sounds from miles away, to feel the subtle movement of air currents on your skin, to navigate the world through sensory portals that reveal dimensions of reality invisible to most humans. This is the world of the lion, a world rendered in silver and shadow, in whispers carried on wind, in textures and vibrations that speak their own language. Let us enter this sensory realm, not with effort, but with gentle curiosity, allowing the lion's experience to show us something about perception, about awareness, about the many ways of knowing the world. We begin with vision, with the lion's remarkable ability to see in conditions that would leave humans nearly blind. A lion's night vision is 6 times sharper than a human's. 6 times. This is not a small difference. This is the difference between stumbling in darkness and moving with confidence, between vague shapes and clear details, between vulnerability and mastery. This enhanced vision comes from several adaptations working together. First, the lion's eyes have a higher concentration of rod cells, the photoreceptors responsible for vision in low light conditions. Rod cells do not detect color well, but they are exquisitely sensitive to dim light. The lion's retina is packed with them. Second, behind the retina, lions possess a layer of tissue called the tapetum lucidum. This is the structure that causes animal eyes to shine when caught in a flashlight or headlights. The tapetum acts as a mirror, reflecting light back through the retina a second time. This gives the photoreceptors 2 chances to capture each photon of light. It effectively doubles the light available for vision. The result is a visual system optimized for twilight and darkness. Twilight eyes piercing darkness, seeing what is hidden from others, moving through the night as if it were dusk. And this visual capacity serves rest as well as hunting, because when a lion can see clearly in darkness, it can also detect threats while resting, can remain aware of its surroundings even in low light, can rest with one eye half open, monitoring without full alertness. This permits undistracted glymphatic cascades. The brain can enter deep states of rest, can allow the glymphatic system, the brain's waste clearance mechanism, to do its work, because the eyes maintain a baseline vigilance even in sleep. The sensory system continues to sample the environment, ready to alert the brain if anything significant appears, but otherwise allowing consciousness to drift into restorative depths. Your own eyes, though less capable in darkness, serve a similar function during sleep. Even with eyes closed, your visual system is not entirely offline. Neurons continue to fire. The brain continues to process internal visual experiences, dreams, and if a bright light were to appear, your eyes would detect it even through closed lids, and you might rouse. But for now, let your eyes rest completely. Let the visual system stand down. There is nothing you need to see, nothing you need to monitor, just darkness, just the gentle, neutral absence of light. The lion, too, spends much of its time with eyes closed or half closed. Seeing is energetically expensive. The visual cortex consumes significant resources, and so, when vision is not needed, the lion allows its eyes to rest, to soften, to release their focus. But vision is only one sensory portal. Let us move now to touch, to texture, to the lion's remarkable tongue. A lion's tongue is covered with sharp, rasp-like structures called papillae. If you have ever been licked by a house cat, you have felt a milder version of this texture, rough, almost like sandpaper. A lion's tongue is the same, but more extreme. The papillae are harder, sharper, more closely spaced. These structures serve a very practical purpose. They allow the lion to scrape meat off bones with remarkable efficiency. After a kill, when the large chunks of flesh have been consumed, the lion uses its tongue to clean every bit of remaining tissue from the skeleton. The papillae act like hundreds of tiny hooks, catching and pulling meat fibers that would otherwise be wasted. This is tactile efficiency, allowing prolonged rest between feasts. Because every calorie matters, every scrap of meat consumed extends the time until the next hunt is necessary, and more time between hunts means more time for rest, for lying in the shade, for digesting, for conserving energy. The tongue also serves grooming functions. Lions groom themselves and each other, licking fur to remove dirt, parasites, loose hair. The rough texture helps clean more effectively than a smooth tongue could. But think about the sensory experience of having such a tongue. The constant texture, the feedback from every surface it touches, the information gathered about temperature, moisture, taste. The lion's tongue is not just a tool, it is a sensory organ, gathering data about the world. You have your own tactile sensations available right now, the texture of fabric or sheets against your skin, the temperature of the air on your face, the pressure of your body against the surface beneath you. Your skin is your largest sensory organ, constantly gathering information, sending signals to your brain about the state of your environment. But you can let those sensations simply be. You do not need to analyze them or respond to them. They can exist in the background of awareness, noted but not demanding attention. Like the lion's tongue resting between uses, simply being part of the body, ready when needed, but not active now. Now let us consider the whiskers, these extraordinary sensory threads that map territories in shadowed vigils. A lion's whiskers, technically called vibrissae, are not just hairs, they are specialized sensory organs. Each whisker is rooted in a follicle, surrounded by nerve endings and blood vessels. When a whisker is bent or moved even slightly, it sends signals to the brain about the direction and intensity of the touch. Whiskers extend beyond the width of the lion's body. This means they can detect obstacles or openings in darkness, helping the lion navigate without relying solely on vision. If the whiskers fit through an opening, the body will fit. If the whiskers brush against grass or branches, the lion knows how close those obstacles are. But whiskers also detect air currents. As the lion moves through tall grass, pursuing prey, the whiskers feel the subtle changes in air movement. They detect the disturbance created by an animal ahead, even if that animal is not yet visible. They provide advance warning, allowing the lion to adjust its approach, to move more stealthily, to time its final rush perfectly. These are sensory threads mapping territories. Every movement through a familiar landscape creates a whisker map in the lion's brain. The feel of certain grasses, the spacing of acacia trees, the texture of different soils, all recorded through touch, through the constant input of whiskers sampling the environment. And here is something remarkable. The pattern of spots where whiskers attach to the lion's muzzle is unique to each individual. No two lions have exactly the same whisker spot pattern. These patterns can be used by researchers to identify individual lions in photographs, much as fingerprints identify individual humans. Subtle spots mapping identities in repose, each lion wearing its unique signature on its face, a visible marker of individuality, created by the distribution of sensory organs. Your own face has its own unique characteristics, the particular spacing of your features, patterns invisible to casual observation, but distinctive enough that facial recognition software can identify you. You too wear your identity on your face. You too are unique in subtle and profound ways. But for now, let your face relax completely. Let the muscles around your eyes, your mouth, your jaw release all tension. Let your face become soft, neutral, at rest. The sensory organs embedded in your facial skin, touch receptors, temperature sensors, can simply exist without needing to report or respond. The lion, resting in afternoon shade, whiskers motionless, is not gathering information through them in that moment. The whiskers are still. The air is still. There is nothing to map, nothing to navigate, only rest, only the absence of movement, and in that stillness, even the sensory organs rest. Now let us explore the lion's sense of hearing, the ability to detect faint prey sounds over miles of savanna. A lion's ears are large and mobile. They can rotate independently of each other, each one swiveling to focus on different sounds. This allows the lion to locate the source of a sound with great precision. If a wildebeest coughs a kilometer away, the lion's ears can determine not only the direction, but also the approximate distance. Acute hearing detects faint sounds, the soft footfalls of prey moving through grass, the breathing of another predator nearby, the distress call of a cub, the roar of a rival pride in the distance. All of this information flows into the lion's awareness, helping it navigate both opportunities and threats. But hearing also complements night vision. When light is too low, even for enhanced vision, hearing becomes primary. The lion listens, tracks sound, uses auditory information to build a mental map of its surroundings. Where prey is moving, where pride members are located, where danger might be approaching. And then when the information is gathered, when the position is known, the sensory edges dissolve into nocturnal stillness. The lion stops analyzing, stops tracking, moves into action, or settles into rest, and the constant flow of sensory input recedes from conscious awareness. Because constant vigilance is exhausting, no creature can maintain full sensory alertness indefinitely. Even apex predators must allow their senses to rest, must trust that if something truly important occurs, the sensory systems will alert them. Otherwise, they can drift, can soften, can release the need to know everything happening around them. This is what you are invited to do now. Your own hearing is functioning. Sounds may be occurring around you. Distant traffic, wind, the settling of a building, your own breath, but you do not need to attend to them. You can let them pass through your awareness without grasping, without analyzing, without responding. The lion's ears flick occasionally during sleep, responding to sounds, confirming that nothing threatening is near, then settling again. The sensory system maintains a baseline monitoring function, but it does not pull the lion into full wakefulness unless necessary. Your own nervous system is doing the same. Your brain continues to process sensory input even during sleep, but it filters out the irrelevant, allows you to remain in rest unless something genuinely requires your attention. Trust this. Trust the intelligence of your sensory systems. They have kept humans alive for hundreds of thousands of years. They know how to monitor while allowing rest. They know when to alert and when to remain quiet. All of these senses, vision, touch, hearing, and others we have not discussed, like smell and taste, work together to create the lion's experience of reality. They are portals through which information enters, windows through which the world reveals itself. But they are also gates that can close, thresholds that the lion can step back from when rest is needed. The night vision eyes close, the sensitive whiskers become still, the mobile ears relax, the rough tongue rests against the teeth, and the lion enters a state where sensory input is minimized, where the portals narrow, where the constant flow of information slows to a trickle. This is what allows deep rest, this withdrawal from sensory engagement, this stepping back from the windows, away from the thresholds, into the interior space of being where nothing is happening. No new information is needed, no response is required, only presence, only the simple fact of existence, breathing, being. You can rest here, in this interior space. The sensory portals that connect you to the world can narrow, can filter, can allow only what is essential to pass through, while everything else is held at bay. The lion knows this instinctively. The great hunter with senses that can detect prey miles away, nevertheless spends most of its life with those senses turned down, dimmed, allowed to rest, because sensory processing requires energy, requires neural resources, and rest requires the opposite, the conservation of energy, the quieting of neural activity, the descent into states where nothing is processed because nothing needs to be. Your twilight eyes, though not as sharp as the lion's, can rest now. Your touch receptors, though constantly sending signals, can recede from awareness. Your hearing, though still functioning, can become background. The sensory portals can remain open just enough for safety, but otherwise withdraw, allowing you to turn inward, to rest in the interior space where the body simply is. The lion in the savannah, you in your place of rest, both withdrawing from the sensory world, both allowing the portals to narrow, both entering the territory of deep rest where perception quiets, and being simply continues, breath by breath, heartbeat by heartbeat, in a profound stillness that restores. We descend now into the smallest territories, not landscapes measured in kilometers but in micrometers, not the visible body but the hidden architecture within. We travel through the hypothalamus, deep in the center of the brain where clusters of neurons orchestrate the most fundamental rhythms of life. Waking and sleeping, hunger and satiety, the balance between vigilance and rest. This is the neural kingdom, the realm where consciousness is regulated, where sleep is commanded, where the decision to rest or to rouse is made by cells too small to see with the naked eye, yet powerful enough to govern the entire organism. Breathe deeply as we enter this microscopic world. There is no need to understand every detail. Simply allow the words to wash over you, like gentle waves, carrying you deeper into the mystery of your own brain, your own capacity for rest. In the Asiatic lion, deep within the hypothalamus, there are clusters of specialized neurons called orexinergic neurons. These cells produce neuropeptides called orexins, also known as hypocretins. And these chemical messengers play a crucial role in maintaining wakefulness, in promoting arousal, in keeping the brain alert and engaged with the world. The Asiatic lion has orexinergic neurons distributed in several locations. There is the main cluster, the primary population that most mammals possess. Then there is the zona incerta, a small region involved in various regulatory functions. There is the optic tract cluster associated with visual processing pathways. And there are ventromedial extensions reaching toward the supraoptic nucleus, which regulates water balance and other homeostatic functions. These orexin clusters orchestrate wakeful pursuits. When they are active, when they release their neuropeptides, the brain remains alert, attentive, ready to respond. The lion hunts, patrols, socializes, engages with its environment. But when these clusters quiet, when the orexinergic neurons reduce their firing, when the flow of orexin decreases, the lion can rest, can allow wakefulness to fade, can descend into the deep restorative states of sleep that occupy most of its existence. Orexin clusters orchestrating wakeful pursuits, then fading into savanna slumbers. The same neurons that promote hunting also, by their silence, permit rest. It is the presence and absence of these chemical signals that creates the rhythm of waking and sleeping. Your own brain has orexinergic neurons as well. In your hypothalamus, similar clusters are producing orexins right now, or not producing them depending on your state. During wakefulness, orexin levels are elevated, keeping your cortex active, your attention engaged. During sleep, orexin levels drop dramatically, allowing consciousness to dim, allowing the brain to shift into different modes of activity. As you allow yourself to drift towards sleep, your orexinergic neurons are quieting. The chemical tide of wakefulness is receding. The brain is preparing for the transition into sleep. You do not need to make this happen. It is happening on its own, guided by these tiny clusters of cells deep in your hypothalamus, cells you will never see, but which govern your every moment of rest and waking. Now let us consider something even more specific, something that distinguishes felids, the cat family, from most other mammals. All members of the cat family, from house cats to lions to tigers, possess a particular type of orexinergic neuron that is rare elsewhere in the mammal kingdom. These are medial hypothalamic parvocellular orexinergic neurons. Parvocellular means small-celled. These are tiny neurons smaller than the typical orexinergic cells, located in specific medial regions of the hypothalamus. And here's what makes them remarkable. Outside of felids, parvocellular orexinergic neurons are found only in cetartiodactyls, the group that includes whales, dolphins, and hoofed mammals like cattle and deer, and in elephants. That is it. Most mammals do not have them, but cats do. Tiny parvocellular guardians whispering sustained arousal amid extended carnivore repose. What do these neurons do? The research is still unfolding, but they appear to contribute to sustained arousal, the ability to remain wakeful during long periods of low activity. For a carnivore that must stay alert during lengthy hunts, during patient stalking, during territorial disputes that may last hours, this sustained arousal is valuable. But paradoxically, these same neurons exist in animals that also exhibit extended repose. Lions sleep 15 to 20 hours per day. They are among the most resting creatures on Earth, and yet they possess these specialized neurons for sustained arousal. This is not a contradiction. It is a reflection of flexibility. The lion can be intensely alert when necessary, sustained by these parvocellular neurons, and it can also rest deeply, profoundly for most of its life. The neural architecture supports both extremes, both vigilance and surrender, both arousal and repose. You too contain neural systems that can support intense focus when needed and deep rest when that is appropriate. Your brain is not locked into one state. It is fluid, adaptable, capable of shifting between modes depending on what the moment requires. And right now, this moment requires rest. So the neural systems that support wakefulness are standing down, the guardians are quieting, The whispers of sustained arousal are fading, and the systems that support sleep are rising, taking their place, guiding you gently downward into deeper and deeper rest. Research suggests that lions may also have orexin immunopositive neurons that respond to orexin in additional locations in the paraventricular nucleus, which regulates stress responses and autonomic functions, and possibly in the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the master clock of the brain, the tiny cluster of cells that generates circadian rhythms. These nucleus whispers modulate circadian depths. If orexin-responsive neurons exist in the circadian pacemaker, they may help synchronize the timing of sleep and wakefulness with the 24-hour day. They may help the lion adjust its rest patterns to the seasons, to the availability of prey, to the social rhythms of the pride. This enriches the lion's restorative quiescence. The sleep is not just absence of waking, it is coordinated, timed, integrated with all the other rhythms of the body and the environment. The neural kingdom does not operate in isolation. It communicates with the heart, with the hormonal systems, with the sensory organs, creating a unified, coherent pattern of rest that serves the whole organism. Your suprachiasmatic nucleus is operating right now. Even as you rest, even as you drift, this tiny cluster of neurons is keeping time, tracking the hours, coordinating the release of hormones like melatonin that promote sleep, preparing your body for the transitions that will come, eventually a shift from sleep to waking, but not yet, not for hours. For now, the circadian system is supporting your rest, signaling to every cell in your body that this is the time for recovery, for restoration, for letting go. Now let us explore another aspect of the neural kingdom, the relationship between nutrition and sleep. Lion orexins regulate the nutrition-sleep balance. These neuropeptides respond to the metabolic state of the body. When the lion is hungry, when energy stores are low, orexin levels rise. This suppresses rest. This keeps the lion awake, alert, motivated to hunt. Sleep can wait. Food is the priority. Hypocretin vigilance deferring slumber. The appetitive drives, hunger, thirst, the need for calories override the need for sleep temporarily. The brain says, first hunt, then rest. But once the hunt is successful, once the lion has fed, once caloric needs are met, orexin levels can drop. The appetitive drives yield, and satiated peace arrives. The full belly, the satisfied hunger, the metabolic signals informing the brain that resources are available, that survival is secure for now, that rest is permissible. And with that permission, sleep comes, deep, unguarded, the sleep of satisfaction. You may have experienced this yourself, the difficulty of sleeping when very hungry, the ease of sleeping after a satisfying meal. This is the same mechanism, the same neural logic. Your orexins respond to your metabolic state just as the lions do. And as you rest now, if you are neither very hungry nor uncomfortably full, your brain is registering a state of metabolic adequacy. There is no urgent need to seek food, no signal preventing sleep. The appetitive drives are quiet, and so sleep can deepen. Finally, let us consider one more neural system, noradrenaline. Noradrenaline, also called norepinephrine, is a neurotransmitter associated with alertness and arousal. It is produced primarily in a small region of the brainstem called the locus coeruleus. When the locus coeruleus is active, when noradrenaline is being released throughout the brain, we are awake, alert, responsive to our environment. But during sleep, particularly during NREM sleep, the deepest non-REM stages, and during REM sleep when we dream, the locus coeruleus quiets. Noradrenaline levels drop dramatically, and this drop has a specific function. Noradrenaline from the locus coeruleus elevates sensory thresholds during NREM and REM sleep. What does this mean? It means that when noradrenaline is low, the brain becomes less responsive to sensory input. The threshold for arousal increases. Sounds that would wake you when noradrenaline is high can pass through awareness without disturbing you when noradrenaline is low. Aminergic gates sealing senses. The sensory portals we discussed earlier, vision, hearing, touch, are still functioning at a basic level, still sampling the environment, but the signals they send are filtered, gated. Most of them do not reach conscious awareness. This permits undistracted glymphatic cascades. The glymphatic system, the brain's waste clearance mechanism, operates most efficiently during deep sleep. Cerebrospinal fluid flows through the brain, flushing out metabolic waste products, clearing away debris accumulated during waking hours. This process is critical for brain health, for maintaining cognitive function, for preventing the buildup of proteins associated with neurodegenerative diseases. But the glymphatic system can only do this work when the brain is not busy processing sensory information, not busy responding to the environment. It needs the sensory gates to seal, the aminergic systems to quiet, the locus coeruleus to reduce its noradrenaline output. And that is what happens during deep sleep. In lions, in humans, in all mammals. The noradrenaline drops, the gates seal, and the glymphatic system flows, clearing, cleansing, restoring the brain to optimal function. Right now, as you rest, your locus coeruleus is quieting. Noradrenaline levels are dropping, the sensory thresholds are rising, sounds are becoming more distant, sensations are fading, the gates are sealing. And this is good. This is exactly what should happen. This is your brain preparing for the deep work of restoration. The glymphatic cascades that will clear away the day's accumulation of cellular waste. The processes that will leave you refreshed, renewed, cognitively sharp when you wake. You do not need to manage this. You do not need to make it happen. The neural kingdom operates according to its own ancient wisdom. The orexinergic neurons quiet, the noradrenergic neurons rest, the gates seal, the glymphatic system flows, all on its own, all in perfect coordination. The lion resting under the acacia tree, its hypothalamic clusters orchestrating the descent into sleep, its locus coeruleus quieting, its brain entering the protected state where restoration can occur. This is happening in you as well. Your neural kingdom is governing your rest. The microscopic territories within your skull are coordinating the transition from waking to sleeping. The tiny clusters of neurons, the chemical messengers they produce, the thresholds they set, all of it working together to give you the gift of deep restorative sleep. Trust this. Trust the neural kingdom. It has been doing this work for as long as brains have existed. It knows how to rest you, how to restore you, how to prepare you for waking when the time is right. For now, simply allow the descent, the orexin fading, the noradrenaline dropping, the gates sealing, the senses receding, the consciousness dimming, all of it happening naturally, effortlessly, as it has happened every night of your life. The neural kingdom whispers, "Rest now," and the body, trusting that whisper, yields, softens, descends into the profound stillness where restoration happens, where the glymphatic cascades flow, where the lion's restorative quiescence and your own deep rest are one and the same, traveling through hypothalamic clusters, witnessing the microscopic orchestration of sleep, and surrendering to it completely, breath by breath, neuron by neuron, the entire neural kingdom quieting into the unified silence of deep rest. We have rested in silence. We have felt the acoustic tranquility that follows all sound. And now we must acknowledge something that exists alongside rest, something that coexists with peace but does not eliminate it. We must speak of stress, of pressure, of the challenges that all living beings face, that shape behavior, that create resilience even as they create difficulty. But we hold this gently. We frame it not as catastrophe, but as complexity. Fear and resilience coexisting, difficulty and adaptation woven together. The natural rhythm of life, which includes both ease and challenge, both safety and threat, both rest and vigilance. Let your breath remain steady as we explore this. Stress is not the enemy of rest. It is simply a reality that rest must accommodate. And the lion shows us how this accommodation works, how beings under pressure still find ways to rest, how resilience emerges not from the absence of challenge, but from the capacity to adapt to it. Lions living near human settlements carry elevated stress. This is measurable. Scientists collect fecal samples, analyze them for glucocorticoid metabolites, the breakdown products of stress hormones, and compare levels between different populations. And the findings are clear. Lions in human-settled buffer zones exhibit 25% higher fecal glucocorticoid metabolites, than lions in protected areas, 25% more stress hormones circulating through their systems, 25% more activation of the physiological stress response, elevated metabolites disrupting deep repose near settlements, prompting vigilant, fragmented rests. Why? Because humans represent unpredictability, potential danger. Lions near settlements encounter livestock, which they may hunt, but which brings them into conflict with herders. They encounter people moving through their territory. They hear noises, vehicles, voices, activities that are foreign, that trigger alertness, that prevent complete relaxation. The nervous system cannot fully stand down, cannot descend into the deepest rest, because the environment signals maintain awareness, stay alert. Danger could appear at any moment. And so the rest becomes fragmented, lighter, less restorative. The lion still sleeps, it must sleep, but the quality of that sleep is compromised, the glymphatic clearance less complete, the nervous system less fully restored. This is the cost of proximity to human activity. Not death, not immediate harm necessarily, but chronic elevation of stress, the wearing effect of never being able to rest completely, of always maintaining some level of vigilance. You may know this feeling, the difficulty of resting deeply when you are in an unfamiliar place, when you are near sources of unpredictable noise, when your nervous system is telling you that this environment is not entirely safe. The sleep comes, but it is not the deep restorative sleep of complete security. But there is a counter pattern, a source of hope, a way that adaptation works to restore balance. Fecal glucocorticoid concentrations decrease significantly with distance from the nearest occupied human settlement. The further from human activity, the lower the stress hormones. This is not surprising, but it is important. It means that space matters, distance matters. The ability to retreat into territories where humans are not present makes a measurable difference in physiological stress. Distance restoring metabolic calm, enabling neural glymphatic clearance in undisturbed prides. When the lion can move away from human presence, when it can find refuge in spaces where the only sounds are natural sounds, where the only movements are those of other animals, the nervous system relaxes, the stress response downregulates, the hormones return to baseline levels, and deep rest becomes possible again. This is why protected areas matter, why wilderness matters, not as abstract ideals, but as concrete necessities for the physiological well-being of wild animals. The space to retreat, the distance to buffer, the refuge where stress can dissolve and rest can deepen. And for you, this principle applies as well. Your rest environment matters. The ability to create distance from sources of stress, whether by closing a door, by turning off devices, by establishing boundaries, makes a measurable difference in your capacity for deep restoration. You cannot always control the larger environment, but you can often create small refuges, small distances, small buffers that allow your nervous system to relax. You are in such a refuge now. This moment, this rest, whatever small distance you have created from the stressors of your day is enough. It is working. Your nervous system is down-regulating. Your stress hormones are declining. The capacity for restoration is increasing with every breath, every moment of continued rest. Interestingly, stress in lions is not only about external threats. It also arises from social dynamics, from relationships within the pride itself. Larger lion groups correlate with elevated fecal glucocorticoid metabolites. More lions in the pride means more social complexity, more relationships to navigate, more potential for conflict, for competition, for agonistic interactions, aggressive encounters, disputes over food or mating, challenges to status. Crowded prides fragmenting sleep amid rivalries' undercurrents. The social bonds that provide security also create stress. The pride that offers safety in numbers also creates competition. There is no perfect solution, only trade-offs. The solitary lion faces different stressors: isolation, lack of support during hunts. The social lion faces different stressors: crowding, competition, Both patterns work, both are viable, but both include stress. Life includes stress. The question is not how to eliminate it, that is impossible, but how to adapt to it, how to rest despite it, how to find resilience within it. And here the research reveals something beautiful, something about temperament and its buffering effects. Agreeable lions, those who show low aggression, who avoid conflict, who yield rather than fight, have lower fecal glucocorticoid metabolites than dominant ones, lower stress hormones, less physiological activation. Their temperament buffers them against the social stress that elevates hormones in more aggressive individuals. Temperament buffering stress, agreeable traits fostering unhurried neural repair. The aggressive lions, the dominant ones, pay a cost for their status. The constant assertion of dominance, the frequent conflicts, the need to maintain position through force, all of this activates stress responses, elevates hormones, wears on the system. The agreeable lions, by avoiding these conflicts, by choosing a different strategy, preserve their capacity for deep rest. Their nervous systems remain calmer, their sleep is less fragmented, they may have less access to food, less mating success in some cases, but they have more rest, more restoration, more ease. There is wisdom here, not about dominance or submission necessarily, but about the costs and benefits of different strategies, about the value of choosing ease when possible, about the buffering effect of not engaging every conflict, not asserting at every opportunity, not maintaining constant vigilance against social rivals. You have choices too, about how much conflict to engage, about when to assert and when to yield, about whether dominance or agreeability serves you better in different contexts. And those choices have physiological consequences. Consequences for your stress hormones, your sleep quality, your capacity for restoration. Perhaps in this moment of rest, you can release some of the dominant striving, some of the need to assert, to defend, to maintain position. Perhaps you can choose the agreeable path, at least for now, the path of yielding, of softening, of allowing rather than forcing. And perhaps in that yielding, your stress hormones will decline a bit further, your rest will deepen, your neural repair will proceed unhurried. Lions also show remarkable spatial intelligence in managing stress. They adjust movements to avoid people and livestock. When GPS tracking reveals that human-lion separation is low, fecal samples show mounting glucocorticoid responses. But the lions don't simply endure this. They adapt. They change their behavior. Spatial retreats preserving homeostasis, distance dictating restorative depths. The lions move, shift their territories, alter their daily patterns, choose routes that minimize encounters with humans. They are not passive victims of human encroachment. They are active adapters, using their capacity for spatial learning and behavioral flexibility to create distance, to reduce exposure, to manage their own stress levels. And the data shows this works. When lions successfully avoid human contact, their stress hormones decline, their sleep quality improves, their capacity for rest is preserved, not perfectly, but sufficiently. This is resilience, not the absence of challenge, but the capacity to respond to challenge, to adapt, to find strategies that work, that preserve well-being even in difficult circumstances. You have this capacity too, the ability to adjust, to move away from stressors when possible, to choose different routes, different strategies, different approaches that reduce exposure to what elevates your stress. You are not passive, you are adaptive, and every choice you make to create distance from stress, to preserve your capacity for rest, is an expression of your resilience. One more pattern emerges from the research. Lions reduce daytime space use and shift nocturnal under high human disturbance. They adapt their temporal patterns, not just their spatial ones. If humans are active during the day, lions become more nocturnal. They rest more during daylight hours. They move and hunt more at night. Nocturnal drift, aligning with moon's calm pull, embodying adaptive rest amid encroaching shadows. This is profound adaptation. The lion's circadian system, which we explored earlier, is flexible enough to shift, to accommodate the presence of a diurnal threat, humans, by becoming more strictly nocturnal. The timing of activity and rest adjusts. The body re-entrains, the melatonin rhythms shift, and the lion finds a new pattern that allows survival, that preserves rest, that creates distance in time when distance in space is not sufficient. You too can adjust your timing, can shift when you rest and when you are active, within limits, to accommodate your circumstances. The circadian system has flexibility. It can adapt. And sometimes changing when you do things is as important as changing what you do or where you do it. The stress response then is not failure, it is information. It is the body saying this situation requires attention, requires adaptation, requires change. And when the body's message is heard, when adaptation occurs, stress hormones can decline, rest can deepen, resilience emerges, fear and resilience coexisting, not as contradictions but as partners. Fear signals danger, motivates caution, drives adaptive behavior. Resilience implements the adaptations, finds the strategies, preserves the capacity for rest, even in challenging circumstances. The lion living near human settlements is both stressed and resilient, both elevated in glucocorticoids and still sleeping, both vigilant and still resting. The complexity is real, the coexistence is possible, and you, carrying whatever stresses you carry, are also resilient, also adaptive, also capable of resting despite the challenges. The stress does not have to disappear for rest to occur. Distance helps, agreeable temperament helps, behavioral adjustments help, but even without perfect conditions, rest still comes, because the body needs it, because life requires it, because resilience includes the capacity to rest under pressure, not just in perfect peace. So rest now with whatever stress remains. Rest knowing that your body is managing it, is adapting to it, is finding homeostasis despite it. Rest trusting that distance, even small distance, even temporary distance is enough. That your nervous system knows how to downregulate when given the opportunity. That your capacity for restoration persists, even when circumstances are not ideal. The lion rests in imperfect conditions, and you can too. Fear and resilience coexisting, challenge and adaptation woven together, the stress response acknowledged, and rest embraced anyway, because rest is not conditional on perfection. Rest is available now, in this moment, despite everything, and that availability is itself a form of resilience, a form of grace, a form of the body's endless capacity to seek restoration, to find rest, to continue despite difficulty. Breathe into that resilience, rest into that adaptation, and let the complexity simply be complex, without needing to resolve it, without needing to fix it. Just rest, amid it all, as the lion rests, imperfect, stressed, and still somehow finding the deep restoration that makes continued life possible. We must speak now of something difficult, something that exists in tension with all the beauty we have explored. We have walked with lions through their evolution, their adaptations, their magnificent bodies, their long sleeps. We have seen the pride circle, the hunt, the feast, the resilience. We have witnessed power and grace and the deep wisdom of rest. And now we must acknowledge that this is fading, that the lion, ancient and adaptive, is vanishing from much of its range, that the numbers are declining, that the future is uncertain. But we hold this with care. We frame it not as catastrophe that steals your peace, but as witness, as acknowledgement, as a call to awareness that does not demand you carry weight too heavy for rest. You cannot solve this tonight. You cannot reverse decline while sleeping. What you can do is simply know, simply hold the truth gently, simply allow it to exist without letting it consume the stillness you need. This is somber, yes, but not despairing. Because even in decline there is continuation. Even in loss, there are populations that endure. Even in difficulty, there are efforts toward renewal. The story is not over. The last chapter is not yet written. Breathe with this. The complexity, the difficulty, the coexistence of beauty and loss. Let it be what it is, without needing to fix it in this moment. Just witness, just acknowledge, just rest with the truth of impermanence, of change, of the cycles that include both flourishing and fading. Only about 23,000 lions remain in the wild. 23,000. This seems like a large number until you consider the vastness of Africa, the millions of square kilometers of potential habitat. The fact that in the recent past, just decades ago, there were perhaps twice as many, 23,000 scattered across a continent, in fragmented populations, in isolated reserves, in territories increasingly squeezed by human expansion. The numbers echoing softly across the savannah, diminished but not yet silent. Diminished numbers echoing softly, remnant populations seeking balanced equilibrium. The decline is not uniform, different regions face different pressures. In West and Central Africa, lion populations have declined regionally by 50% over 2 decades, half. In 20 years, this is precipitous. This is the kind of decline that signals crisis. In East Africa, the decline is less sharp but still present. The great populations of the Serengeti, the Masai Mara, are more stable. But even there, pressures mount. Human populations grow, land is converted, prey is depleted. The lions persist, but their future is not secure. Regional fluxes mirroring savanna breaths, lions embodying ecological equilibrium's serene pulse. Even in decline, the lions continue. They hunt, they rest, they raise cubs. They do not know their numbers are falling. They simply live day by day, moment by moment, breath by breath. The crisis is invisible to them. It exists in human awareness, in data, in trends plotted on graphs. But the individual lion experiences only its immediate reality. Hunger or satiation, safety or threat, the warmth of the pride, or the isolation of exile. And in that immediate reality there is still life, still breath, still the long sleep under acacia trees, still the cycles continuing, even as the larger trajectory bends downward. You too exist in immediate reality. Your own challenges, your own uncertainties, may include knowledge of larger trajectories, larger crises, but in this moment, you are here, you are breathing, you are resting, and that immediate reality is what you can actually experience. The rest is information, important but not more real than this breath, this moment, this rest. But there is hope woven into the difficulty, not false hope, not denial, but actual evidence of possibility, of populations that are growing rather than shrinking, of strategies that work. Fence reserves in southern Africa show the strongest growth. The population growth rate in these protected, managed areas is approximately 1.10. This means populations are increasing by 10% per year. South Africa is unique in showing expanding lion populations while most of the continent shows decline. Enclosed sanctuaries cradling burgeoning prides, fenced horizons fostering unthreatened repose. What makes the difference? Protection, management. The fences that keep lions in also keep threats out. Poaching is minimized, human-wildlife conflict is reduced, prey populations are maintained, and the lions thrive. They breed, their cubs survive at higher rates. The populations grow. This is not the wild as it once was. The fences are real, the management is intensive, but it is survival, it is continuation. It is the possibility that even if wild, unfenced lion populations decline further, genetic reservoirs will persist in these sanctuaries. And perhaps if conditions change, if human pressures lessen, these populations could be sources for reintroduction elsewhere. The fenced reserve is compromise, but it is also success. It shows that when lions are truly protected, when their needs are prioritized, they can flourish. The biological capacity for recovery exists. The question is whether humans will create conditions that allow that recovery. But the underlying cause of decline is clear. It is not mysterious, it is measurable. Prey depletion correlates directly with lion declines. In West and Central Africa, herbivore populations have dropped by 85%, in East Africa by 52%. When the prey disappears, the predator cannot remain. The lion needs to eat, needs approximately 40 kilograms of meat every several days. If zebra and wildebeest are not present in sufficient numbers, the lion cannot survive. Diminished feasts extending lean fasts, honing survival through deepened metabolic tranquility. The lions adapt as they can. They rest more, conserving energy. They hunt smaller prey. They scavenge more, but there are limits. Below a certain prey density, the territory cannot support a pride. The lions starve, or they leave, seeking better hunting grounds that may not exist, or they turn to livestock, bringing them into conflict with humans, often with fatal results. The prey depletion is itself caused by human activity, overhunting, habitat conversion to agriculture, climate change altering vegetation patterns. The cascade of causes leads ultimately to the same effect: empty landscapes where herbivores once grazed in millions and predators followed. And when the apex predator disappears, the cascade continues. Rapid lion loss signals major trophic downgrading. This is the technical term for what happens when the top predator is removed from an ecosystem. The whole structure shifts. Herbivore populations may initially increase without predation pressure, then crash due to overgrazing. Vegetation patterns change. Other predators may expand or decline. The balance that existed for thousands of years tips into something new, something less diverse, less resilient. Absent crowns disrupting cascades, yet ecosystems yearning for rebalanced, harmonious quiescence. Even in disruption, ecosystems seek balance. Not the old balance necessarily, but some new equilibrium. Nature is resilient, adaptive, systems reorganize, but the new balance is often simpler, less complex, less capable of supporting the diversity that existed before. The lion is not just one species, it is a keystone. Its presence shapes entire ecosystems. Its absence leaves a hole that nothing else can quite fill. This is why the decline matters beyond sentiment, beyond aesthetics. The ecological function of the apex predator is real, measurable, important, but you do not need to carry this as personal burden. You did not cause this decline. You alone cannot reverse it. What you can do is witness, is know, is make whatever small choices align with your values when you are awake, when you are active. But for now, you are resting, and rest is also important, also necessary, also part of what makes continued engagement possible. There is one more element that research reveals, one more factor that buffers stress and supports survival. Protected access buffers stress. Lions outside parks, but with access to protected corridors, show lower stress hormones than those completely surrounded by human activity. The ability to retreat, even temporarily, into spaces where they will not be disturbed makes a physiological difference. Sanctuaries enabling unmolested slumbers, buffers cradling vital renewal. The protected area does not have to be large, does not have to be permanent residence. It simply has to exist, to be available when needed, to provide refuge when pressure mounts. The lion can move through human-dominated landscapes if there are these breathing spaces, these islands of safety, these buffers where unmolested rest is possible. This principle applies to you as well. You may not be able to remove yourself permanently from stress, from pressure, from the demands of human life, but if you can create or access refuges, moments, spaces, practices where stress is temporarily buffered, that is often enough. The capacity for vital renewal persists when there are these breathing spaces scattered through time and space. This moment is such a space. This rest. This withdrawal from demands and pressures and information and crisis. You have created or found a buffer. And in this buffer, vital renewal occurs. Stress hormones decline. Sleep deepens. Restoration proceeds. And when you emerge from this buffer, you will have slightly more capacity, slightly more resilience, slightly more ability to engage with what needs engaging. The vanishing is real. The 23,000 lions, down from perhaps twice that. The empty ranges where lions once lived. The prey depletion, the cascade effects, the regional declines that show no sign of reversing without significant intervention. All of this is true. All of this is somber. All of this invites grief, invites concern, invites the question, what can be done? But alongside this truth is another truth. The fenced reserves where populations grow, the resilience of ecosystems seeking new balance, the possibility that protected access, maintained corridors, thoughtful management might allow coexistence. The fact that the last lion has not yet roared, that cubs are still being born, that somewhere right now a pride is sleeping in the shade, completely unaware of their species status, simply living the only life they know. The story continues. Uncertain, yes. Difficult, yes. But continuing. And in that continuation is the possibility of renewal, of population stabilizing, of new conservation strategies emerging, of human attitudes shifting, of space being made, somehow, for the lion to remain part of Earth's tapestry of life. You cannot know the outcome, neither can I. We can only witness, only hold the complexity, only acknowledge both the difficulty and the persistence. Only trust that life is resilient, that nature adapts, that even in decline there are seeds of potential recovery. And we can rest, not in denial of the crisis, but in acceptance that some things are beyond individual control, that rest itself is not indifference, but necessary maintenance, that you, restored, will be more capable of whatever contribution you might make than you, exhausted and despairing. So breathe now with the vanishing lions, with the remnant population seeking equilibrium, with the enclosed sanctuaries cradling burgeoning prides, with the ecosystems yearning for rebalanced quiescence, with the buffers enabling vital renewal, with the continuation that persists despite difficulty. The lion rests in diminished numbers, but still rests. And you can rest too, holding both awareness and peace, both knowledge and stillness, both witness and release. The vanishing does not require your sleeplessness. Your rest is still permitted, still necessary, still in its own way an act of resilience, an affirmation that life continues, that restoration matters, that tomorrow will come, and you will meet it, but not tonight. Tonight, you rest, as all things rest, in the eternal cycle that includes both ending and continuing, both loss and persistence, both difficulty and the stubborn, quiet refusal to disappear completely. We arrive now at the beginning, at the place where endings dissolve into continuations, where loss reveals itself as transformation, where the cycle, having turned through all its phases, prepares to turn again. This is the eternal return, not repetition, but renewal, not sameness, but the pattern that persists through change, the dawn breaking after the long night, the new cubs born into the pride, the breath that continues generation after generation, linking past to future through the living present. Let yourself soften completely now. We are coming to rest at the deepest point, the place where you can finally release everything, where sleep is not something you pursue, but something that simply claims you, naturally, inevitably, like dawn claiming the darkness. Somewhere on the savannah, right now, a lioness is nursing cubs, her body curled protectively around them. 4 tiny mouths latched onto her 4 mammae, drawing milk, drawing life itself from her body into theirs. Maternal flows nourishing clustered dreams. Unity in milky calm. She has 4 mammae, no more, no fewer. This is the architecture of lion motherhood. 4 sources, 4 streams, enough for the typical litter of 2 to 4 cubs, with enough redundancy that if one cub is stronger, if one nurses more vigorously, there are other teats for the others. The design is elegant, sufficient, balanced, and as the cubs nurse, as the milk flows, they begin to drowse. Their small bodies warm, their bellies filling, the sensation of satiation spreading through them, and one by one, they release the teat, their mouths going slack, their bodies relaxing into sleep against their mother's belly. She remains awake a bit longer, licking them, checking them, but soon she too will sleep. The nursing has released hormones in her body, oxytocin, prolactin, that promote bonding, that create drowsiness, that signal, this is safe, this is right, you can rest now. The clustered dreams begin, mother and cubs breathing together, the pride's future cradled in milky calm, a continuation embodied in these small, vulnerable bodies that will grow, that will learn to hunt, that will perhaps raise cubs of their own, extending the lineage forward into time. A lion's generation length equals 7 years. This is calculated from the reproductive span, 12 years on average, multiplied by 0.29, then added to 3.5 years, the age of first reproduction. 7 years from one generation to the next. 7 years for cubs to be born, to mature, to produce their own offspring. Cycles of 7, aligning with lunar whispers. Gestation yielding to pride nurturance. 7 years. Think of your own life in 7-year cycles. How much has changed? how much has remained. The person you were 7 years ago is both you and not you, changed by time, by experience, the same thread running through different forms. The lion's 7-year cycle has repeated thousands of times, hundreds of thousands of times, each generation producing the next, the lineage unbroken, stretching back millions of years to the first creatures recognizable as lions, and back further still to the common ancestors of all cats, and back even further to the first mammals emerging from the age of dinosaurs. An unbroken thread of generation, of birth and maturation and reproduction, the cycle turning, always turning, carrying the pattern forward. And as you rest now, as you drift towards sleep, you are part of your own cycle, your own continuation. The rest that allows the next day, the next phase, the next turning. In South Africa, in certain reserves, white lions have been reintroduced. These rare, pale forms that we spoke of earlier, the product of a recessive gene, not albinism. They were nearly extinct in the wild, surviving only in captivity. But in recent years, they have been released back into natural territories, and they have established themselves, white forms blending into moonlit domains, their paths weaving restful circuits of reclaimed wilds. The white lions establish home ranges comparable to those of tawny prides. They hunt, they reproduce, they reclaim space that their ancestors once occupied. This is not a return to some pristine past. The landscape has changed. Human presence is nearby. The reintroduction is managed and monitored. But it is a continuation, a refusal to accept extinction as final, a choice to give these rare forms another chance. And the white lions, born in captivity, released to wildness, do what lions do. They adapt, they learn, they rest in shade and hunt at dusk, and raise cubs that carry the recessive gene forward. Some of those cubs will be white, some will be tawny carriers, but all will be lions, participating in the eternal cycle, a continuation that refuses to end. This is hope embodied, not perfect restoration, but continuation, not the past reborn, but the future made possible. And you, resting now, are part of continuations as well. Your life is not isolated. It extends backward to ancestors and forward to whatever your presence makes possible. Your rest tonight sustains your capacity to continue, to participate, to add your thread to the larger weaving. In Kenya, researchers studying lion populations have made an important discovery. Using SNP panels, single nucleotide polymorphism analysis, a form of genetic testing, they found that Kenyan lions reveal north-south gene splits with no inbreeding. Genetic mosaics persisting in balanced repose, free from constriction's anxious shadows. This is good news. This means that despite habitat fragmentation, despite declining numbers, the Kenyan populations maintain genetic diversity. The northern lions and southern lions are distinct but both healthy. No signs of the inbreeding depression that plagues the Gir forest population. No constriction. No narrowing to dangerous bottlenecks. The genetic mosaic persists. Different patterns in different regions, but all viable, all capable of continuation. This is resilience at the genetic level. This is diversity as strength. And it suggests that if these populations can be maintained, if their habitats protected, they have the genetic health to persist for generations to come. Your own genetic inheritance, whatever it may be, connects you to vast lineages, to ancestors you will never know, to patterns established long before you existed, and those patterns persist in you, in your cells, in the way your body knows how to heal itself, how to rest itself, how to continue. Evolutionary history informs conservation. This is a principle. The understanding that knowing where a species came from, what genetic patterns it carries, what lineages it represents, helps us make better decisions about how to protect it. Ancestral insights guiding preservations, ensuring genomic dreams endure. The full mitochondrial genomes have been sequenced from 22 modern lions, 4 cave lions, and 1 American lion, 27 genomes total, spanning living and extinct forms. These genetic sequences tell stories. They reveal relationships. They show when lineages split, when populations bottlenecked, when gene flow occurred or ceased. And from these sequences, scientists can make recommendations, prioritize populations that carry unique genetic variants, avoid mixing genetically distinct populations in ways that might disrupt local adaptations. Understand that the Asiatic lion, the West African lion, The various regional populations are not interchangeable. Each carries specific genetic history that has value, that represents millions of years of adaptation to particular conditions. The sequence strands unravel Pleistocene tales, DNA threads weaving ancient naps, the molecules remembering what consciousness cannot, the genetic code carrying forward the record of rest taken, hunts survived, cubs raised, across unimaginable spans of time. And in your own DNA, similar records exist. Mutations that occurred in ancestors, passed down to you, sequences that code for your particular traits, your particular vulnerabilities and strengths. The genomic dreams that make you specifically you, not anyone else. And tonight as you sleep, that DNA is being maintained, repaired where needed, expressed in the proteins that build and maintain your body. The library of your inheritance, being carefully preserved. There is one more genetic discovery, one more thread in the complex weaving. Researchers have found evidence of introgression from an unknown lion ghost lineage detected in modern genomes, phantom ancestries infusing living veins, unseen presences in every breath. Introgression means genetic material from one species or lineage entering another through interbreeding. And the genetic signatures in some modern lions suggest that at some point in the past, they interbred with a lineage we do not yet understand. A population that has left no fossil record we have found, a ghost lineage known only through its genetic traces in living lions. This unknown ancestor contributed genes that persist today, that influence traits we see in modern lions, that are woven so seamlessly into the genome that they cannot be separated out. The phantom ancestry infuses the living. The unseen presence exists in every breath taken by lions carrying these ghost genes. This is the mystery of lineage. We can trace some threads, but others remain hidden. We can know some ancestors, but others are only hints, only traces, only faint signatures in the genetic code, and yet they are there. They are real. They contributed to what exists now. You too carry ghost lineages, ancestors whose names are lost, whose stories will never be known, but whose genetic contributions persist in you, whose presence is real even though unseen, who breathe in some sense in your breathing, who live in some sense in your living. And as you breathe now, as you drift towards sleep, you are connected to all of this, to the sequenced genomes and the ghost lineages, to the white lions reclaiming territories and the Kenyan populations maintaining genetic health, to the cubs nursing and the 7-year cycles and the mitochondrial threads weaving ancient naps. You are part of the continuation, part of the pattern that refuses to end, part of the eternal return, where endings are revealed as transformations, where loss makes space for renewal, where the cycle turns again and again, and will turn again after you are gone, but turns through you now, in this moment, in this breath. Dawn is breaking somewhere. Not where you are necessarily, it may still be deep night. But somewhere on earth, dawn is breaking, light returning after darkness. The same light that has returned every dawn since earth first formed. The same cycle that will continue long after individual lives end. And new cubs are being born somewhere. Perhaps not at this exact moment, but recently, soon, in the ongoing flow of birth that never completely stops. The cycle continuing, the pride regenerating, the species persisting despite difficulty, despite decline, despite uncertainty about the future. The breath synchronizes, your breath, the lion's breath, the breath of all living things, past and present and future, all breathing the same air, atoms that have cycled through countless bodies before arriving in your lungs, in the lion's lungs, in the lungs of the first mammals, the first animals, the first living cells. We are all breathing together, have always been breathing together, will always be breathing together, in the sense that the breath is shared, the air is common, the life force that animates us all is one continuous flowing. And in this breath, this moment, you can rest completely, because you are held by something larger than yourself, held by lineages stretching back to the beginning, held by the cycle that continues, held by the eternal return where death is not ending but transformation, where rest is not absence but presence, where sleep is not loss of consciousness, but its deepening into the universal consciousness that breathes in all things. The lion rests, you rest, and in that shared rest, the distinction dissolves. There is only breath, only the rising and falling, only the continuation that persists through all changes, all difficulties, all uncertainties. New cubs will be born, 7 years will pass, another generation will continue the pattern, the genetic threads will weave forward, the ghost lineages will persist, the phantom ancestries will infuse new veins, and somewhere, always somewhere, a pride will be sleeping in shade, completely at peace, completely present, completely themselves, and you can be completely yourself, completely at peace, completely present, completely resting, not trying to be anything else, not striving toward any other state, just this, just breath, just the eternal return to rest, which is where all cycles begin and end, and begin again. Let go now, let everything go. The stories, the facts, the concerns, the awareness, let it all dissolve into simple presence, simple breath. You are held. You are safe. You are part of the continuation, and the continuation includes this rest. This deep, complete, surrendered rest. This sleep that claims you now, that carries you into dreams or into dreamless depths, that restores you for whatever comes next. The eternal return, the cycle beginning again, the dawn that will break, the breath that will continue, the life that persists, the rest that makes everything else possible. Breathe with the pride, sleep with the lions, dream the clustered dreams, and know that when you wake, the cycle will continue. But for now, only this, only rest, only the eternal return to the beginning, which is breath, which is presence, which is the deep sacred sleep that restores all things. The lions are sleeping, and so are you. And in that shared sleep, everything is as it should be. Complete, whole, continuing.